Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is protected by all 7 clans. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by YAXON and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. It was never Hiruzen's intention to reveal Naruto's heritage. It really wasn't. The poor boy had enough on his tiny shoulders with keeping the Nine Tails imprisoned. He didn't need to worry about assassins hailing from Stone, Cloud, or any of the other many villages that Minato made enemies of. But luck just wasn't on the third Hokage's side. It was a simple fluke that Hisashi Hyuga walked into his office a couple days after the Nine Tails attack. The younger brother to the Hyuga clan had walked in on Sarutobi feeding Naruto a bottle of milk. That in itself was harmless enough, but Hisashi did a double take when he saw Naruto's face, and that was when the trouble started. It wasn't the blonde hair that set him off, or the gorgeous blue eyes, both of which Naruto inherited from his father. No, it was the shape of Naruto's face and the boy's skin tone, which he inherited from his mother, Kushina. You see, most of the village was still mourning the loss of the much-beloved fourth Hokage, but not all of the village. No. Some people had lost other loved ones on that terrible day, other loved ones that were much more meaningful to those people personally. Kushina Uzumaki was one such person for Hisashi Hyuga. It was totally unrequited love on his part, but the young Hyuga had been smitten by the exotic foreigner ever since they were children. It was simply fate that Minato got to her first and complimented her on her divine hair. Hisashi was too tongue-tied to dare approach the violent tomboy. It didn't take a genius to put 2 and 2 together to work out that it was Minato got Kushina pregnant. Minato was the only boy/teenage boy/man that openly fraternized with Kushina without fear of possible bodily harm. Yet Hisashi had not yet been made aware that the baby had survived that horrible night. He had been out of the village on a mission at the time, and had simply heard from his brother that another Jinchuriki had been created. Hayashi had not been able to disclose the Jinchuriki's identity, and it was for that reason alone that Hiruzen knew that his hand would be forced. Hisashi wouldn't simply let Kushina's progeny go to the orphanage when he was of age. Hell, it took Hiruzen outright ordering Jiraiya back out into the field to uphold his spy network so that Jiraiya wouldn't adopt the boy. Hisashi would not be cowed like Jiraiya. He had been far too smitten with Kushina to do so, and he would do everything in his damned power even as a branch member of the Hyuga to make sure Naruto's life was pampered. That basically meant Hisashi would go to his brother about it, reveal Naruto's parentage, and thus tempt Hayashi into adopting the boy. Hiruzen couldn't let that happen. Not because he wanted Naruto's life to be miserable, but because that would start a domino effect. Other prominent clan heads would begin to look at the boy more closely and see what the Hyuga saw. The Uchiha, the Nara, the Inuzuka. Basically all of the Hidden Leaf's major clans would figure out Naruto's parentage, and then it would leak outside the village, and Naruto would have the problem of assassins and kidnappers. Hiruzen was not overthinking this, it would happen, damn it. Though they'd grown apart, Minato's generation had been closely knit once. It would come together again once they discovered Minato's son survived. So Hiruzen had a choice before him: kill Hisashi and gain Hayashi's ire, or let events progress naturally. Or option C, Hisashi, I know what you're thinking. But before you take action, please notify your brother that there will be a clan head meeting about it tonight. Hiruzen heaved a sigh when Hisashi twitched slightly and disappeared in a shunshin. He then motioned to his guard to get word out to Fugaku, Shikaku, Inoichi, Choza, Sum, and Shibi about the impromptu meeting. It was going to be a long night. So, Lord Hokage, let me get this straight. Shikaku drawled as he leaned forward on the rectangular table that the 8 clan heads, Sarutobi included, were gathered around. It wasn't a random orphan that Minato chose to house the nine-tailed fox, but his own son? Kushina being the mother? Taking a deep intake of breath, knowing the pandemonium that was about to ensue, Sarutobi nodded firmly. He was not disappointed when each of the other 7 clan heads started yelling over one another about how they were going to be the one to adopt Minato's son, Shikaku and Shibi included. But then, Minato had been a great shogi partner, so of course he was going to feel attachment to the blonde baby, and Minato had been known to save as many parasitic insects from the brink of death as he could manage when out on the battlefield, so Shibi held a deep respect for the former Hokage. Naruto would get to be Shikamaru-kun's baby brother. Or Shino-kun's. Sarutobi had no doubts about that. Enough! Sarutobi roared after a few minutes of loud, heated arguing. A tick mark was on his forehead. I knew this would happen eventually, so that is precisely why I am having this meeting now. No single clan will be adopting Naruto. You are all far too attached to the boy because of his father, and I will not tolerate a civil war over him. Hiruzen held up his hand before Hayashi could speak out against him. You will listen. Do not say anything before I give you permission to speak, and for Kami's sake, put your weapons away. We are shinobi, warriors, but that does not make us barbarians. Perhaps there is no honor among us like there is among the samurai, but I can guarantee that my suggestion should satisfy a majority of you, at the very least. Now, no single clan will be adopting Naruto. That is favoritism, and will merely encourage civil unrest. I propose a joint adoption amongst the major clans of the Hidden Leaf, all of you. For your sake, I will abstain from adopting the boy with you, but in return, I expect you to honor the agreement you will be signing tonight. No backstabbing diplomacy. If I hear a hint of you trying to get more time with Naruto, I will personally see to it that you are punished accordingly, and that you will not have Naruto under your roof for a set period of time. Having spoken his piece, Sarutobi distributed the contracts, which basically specified each clan would get a period of 30 days with the boy in a cycle over the years. Higachi Hanara Yamanaka Abure Mikimichi Inazuka. And depending on if there were any infractions from a clan, the schedule was liable to change, but the set amount of days would never go up or down. Clans were free to raise the boy as they saw fit, but they were not allowed to raise Naruto to dislike any of the other clans, nor attempt to teach the boy their clan's signature jutsu. That last one was largely because Sarutobi didn't need Naruto becoming a precedent for future generations. Keep the clan jutsu within their respective clans. Besides, who knew what effect the Nine-Tails chakra would have on those jutsu? The boy would possibly become more valuable, and thus encourage backstabbing diplomacy. This was already too much of a headache without that. The contract had more detailed stipulations, but everyone basically agreed to it and signed away. It seemed arbitrarily fair. Everyone would get the chance to raise Naruto, and he'd grow up in his own unique way. On paper anyway. But we all know that the poor boy would be influenced 7 different ways. Naruto would become quite the interesting individual. Psychologists and historians would probably want to dissect and study him for centuries even after his death. Hayashi frowned on his last night with the son of Minato for that month. He didn't like the idea of sharing the blonde. He got enough competition with Hizashi as it was. Allowing plebeians to raise him in their backwoods ways was not befitting a child adopted by the prestigious Hyuga clan. But he had to play nice, or go without Naruto for nearly a year. That would not stand. As Hayashi tucked Naruto in for the night, Hayashi happened to take a sniff by accident. Then he took another sniff to make sure he wasn't smelling things. Yup. It was that time again. And by the smell of it, Naruto had laid a landmine in his diaper. Take the boy to the Uchiha clan compound and drop it off on Fugaka's doorstep. Immediately, Hayashi ordered a branch house member, who did not look too happy to be holding a smelly, bawling baby that desperately needed his diaper changed. Hayashi would sympathize with him, but he was not going to be changing any more diapers that month. It was Uchiha's turn. Chapter 2. Mikoto Uchiha watched slightly in concern as her eldest son attempted to balance his attention between his younger brothers. Yes, she considered Naruto to be family. How could she not? This was Kushina-chan's and Minato-kun's progeny. Unlike her husband who detested sharing the blonde baby with the other clans, Mikoto was okay with it just as long as Kushina-chan's son was properly taken care of. Spying on all of the other families wasn't creepy at all, especially considering not a single one had detected her presence yet. But all the same, Itachi was taking a lot of responsibility, and piling it all solely on his shoulders. Mikoto had made an offhand comment one day about how hard it was going to be rejoining the police force actively, and taking care of the babies, and that was when Itachi-kun solemnly promised he would do the latter so that she wouldn't be overworked. Oh, he was just so precious. He was even doing an admirable job of taking care of the pair of babies. Yet Mikoto could see that sooner or later, Itachi would be driven to insanity with showering the babies with enough attention and love. You simply could not neglect one over the other, which is why Mikoto had suggested bringing in someone else, perhaps Shisui-kun since he was a little older, but Itachi had insisted he could handle it, so Mikoto allowed him a loose hand for the time being. Just until it obviously became too much for the boy, she had to admire the overprotective older brother complex he was developing, because she could swear it was just the most adorable thing ever, and it might even border on the creepy someday, if he became obsessive enough. Obsessive like slaughtering the rest of the clan except his brothers and then conjuring a plan that would manipulate them into killing him to restore honor to the Uchiha, for whatever reason, though Mikoto couldn't realistically see that happening. Not for years and years to come, decades even, if ever. Itachi didn't have a reason to wipe them all out. Yoshino, where did you get this milk? Shikaka asked his wife with a light scowl on his face as he held up the baby formula she had recently purchased. Feeling like there was nothing to hide, Yoshino told him. She blinked when he was pretty much out the door with the bottle in hand just as she wrapped up her explanation. Where are you going? I have a feeling somebody knows who we've got under our roof this month. This milk expired 2 weeks ago. Apparently, I'm going to have to go roll some heads so this doesn't happen again. Shikaka responded curtly without turning around. Yoshino gasped at the revelation. She'd been so quick to believe the label, but evidently her husband felt the need personally inspect it. Boy, was she glad that Shikaka could be paranoid when it mattered. Without missing a beat, Yoshino grabbed her torture whip, the one made of razor wire and not rawhide, which was used for other activities, and ran after her husband. Wait up, dear. You can have what's left over when I'm through with them. From there it was a race to the store. Yoshino was currently more in shape, so she managed to beat her husband there by a lot. The helpless screams of the clerks were music to Shikaka's ears when he got there. Choza had to laugh when he got the luck of the draw, so to speak, when it came his turn to have Naruto under his roof. He'd heard no one bragging yet about Naruto saying his first word, so clearly he hadn't said any before this. It wasn't Dada or Mama or even Choji. Naruto's first word had been of food. And while Choza would have preferred something slightly more refined, hey, it was a pretty darn good food if it wasn't that commercial, cheap crap. Naruto's first word had been ramen. It didn't take very long to discover that Naruto took after his mother more than his father. Tsum had taken her eyes off of him for, like 15 seconds, 20 seconds tops, to feed her dogs, and the mischievous baby had climbed out of his playpen and crawled through one of the many dog flaps scattered around the Inuzuka clan head's household, and had amazingly got past the security guard at the gate to the compound, who just happened to be catching a few Z's simply because he was overworked, or something that week. Well, when Tsum was through with him, he wouldn't be sleeping on the job ever again, that was for sure. She didn't have the time to give him a proper tongue lashing, though, because she had a mischievous baby to round back up. Why no one bothered to stop Naruto before he miraculously got out to the training grounds, Tsum didn't know. What she did know was that she would never be letting Naruto out of her sight again, because that boy had made it all the way into the forest of death on his very first escape attempt. Even for a naive baby, Naruto had to have some brass balls to want to go in there. Saving the blonde from a tiger that appeared to accept Naruto as a new cub had not been fun, even with Kuramaru's help. The blonde even seemed to enjoy having a big-ass tiger as a playmate. That's how unlucky Tsum was, and if she had any say in it, not a word of her negligence would leak out. It wasn't her fault Naruto was such a crafty baby. Tsum wasn't the only to make a classical mistake when raising Naruto. Inoichi had the distinct misfortune of leaving his kunai holster out on the counter, and idly forgetting it as he set Naruto down on that same counter to step away and make up that baby formula. By the time he realized his mistake, it was already too late. Naruto had picked out a kunai from the holster and started gleefully slamming it down on the counter with its sharp end down, leaving sizable scratches. Inoichi tried to run over to stop Naruto before he hurt himself, but like it was on instinct, the boy had held the kunai sideways, aimed it, and threw it. Of course Naruto's aim from Inoichi's chest had been a bit off, and had gone below the belt. Mere centimeters from skewering Inoichi's testicles. Not knowing that what he'd done had been a bad thing, little Naruto clapped and giggled at the pained expressions Inoichi was making as he doubled over on his knees and took deep breaths. Inoichi didn't know whether to call that angelic, tinkling laughter, or well-disguised demonic laughter. It was a toss-up. A few years later, young Niji Hyuga didn't know whether to be grateful or to fear the little terror that was Uzumaki Naruto. On the one hand, Naruto escaping from his bedroom in the dead of night even with a Hyuga adult guarding it sort of filled him with dread. On the other, had not the blonde prankster happened across the Cloud Nin with Lady Hinata slung over his shoulder, Niji had a feeling that Lord Hayashi would have done something he would have regretted, like killing the Cloud Nin in a fit of rage. The reason Hayashi let the man live? Little Naruto thought it was a game that the Cloud Nin was playing, and so had playfully stuck a decently sharp stick kunai up the Cloud Nin's asshole. Clearly that was a fate worse than death, as the Cloud Nin's tortured screams could attest to, and so Hayashi had merely patted Naruto on the head before sending him back to his bedroom with no punishment whatsoever. From what Niji had heard days after the incident, the third Hokage, the council, and the Hyuga elders seeking retribution from the hidden cloud for its attempted kidnapping, and were using the head ninja as a sort of hostage until negotiations could be worked out. Coming to a decision, Niji had been glad that Naruto had interfered, no matter how juvenile the brat could be at times. At least now his father wouldn't be used as a scapegoat, or something. Of course he was terrified of Naruto doing a repeat performance on his buttocks, so he was staying far, far away from Naruto for a while. Frankly, Fugaku didn't know what was worse. The fact that Naruto shattered all of their home's windows in an attempt to learn a shuriken exercise that Itachi was trying to teach him and Sasuke, the fact that his prized vegetable garden was all uprooted and trampled on, or that all of the red portions of the Uchiha crest all along the walls of the compound had been painted neon orange. Then again, there was also the fact that his own flesh and blood, Sasuke and Itachi, had helped the boy in different pranks, Sasuke the garden and Itachi the walls. Who knew Itachi had a mischievous streak in him, too? Then again, that could be the brother complex at work. Chapter 3. It came as no surprise that the first clan to go without Naruto for a month was the Uchiha. Not because of trying to get more Naruto time or trying to teach Naruto an Uchiha jutsu, no. The Uchiha were too clever to go for the obvious. No, what angered Sarutobi enough to take their Naruto time away was the simple fact that Fugaku had instructed a clansman to teach Naruto a jutsu that most shinobi knew, the Shunshin. And not just the Shunshin, but Shursui's version of it. The bastard had ordered the boy to pass his secret mastery of the technique to the blonde child who had just turned 7 years old. All because Fugaku was sour over Sarutobi denying Naruto early entry into the academy. Laws had changed since Itachi was in the academy, and Sarutobi didn't want any other geniuses to arise. From Sarutobi's point of view, Fugaku wasn't content with a boy that had developed a severe older brother complex, and he wanted to risk something happening to Minato's child just because he knew Naruto could handle the pressure. If Sarutobi was a lesser, spiteful man, he would have put Fugaku on permanent babysitting duty for Naruto. Kami knows the boy was fast enough without a Shunshin that didn't require hand seals. The little hellion of a prankster was running circles around some of the Hidden Leaf's finest already. This would just ensure Naruto could escape if he was ever cornered. The boy might even leave the safety of the Hidden Leaf if he was terrified enough of the adult civilians who hated him, who didn't know about his heritage. What if an enemy ninja came across him? What if he caught two people in the act of sexual intercourse? What if? Damn it, He was having panic attacks already. He needed his damn pipe and special tobacco. The Shunshin wasn't the worst thing Naruto learned from the Uchiha clan. No, Fugaku's teachings went deeper than that. Naruto was going to become the second coming of Minato no matter what, and the only way that was going to happen was through training. Though in hindsight, if Hiruzen knew about this aspect of Naruto's training, Fugaku would probably have been court-martialed. The fact that it was subtle and could be chalked up to Naruto-chan wanting to mimic his foster families and their unique character traits was the only thing saving Fugaku from the punishment he deserved. But it would come back to bite him one day because little Naruto-chan, at the age of 7, was developing 8 different personalities. The first was, of course, his natural personality and charisma. The stuff he inherited from Kushina. The other 7 were personalities he gleaned from the 7 clans that were taking care of him: Uchiha, Hyuga, Aburame, Inuzuka, Yamanaka, Nara, and Akimichi. For you see, Fugaku had given little Naruto a very impactful speech on the importance of building a cover, and since Fugaku didn't explain the concept very well due to the young age Naruto-chan was at, the boy assumed he needed to act like the individual clans that he was raised with. The Hyuga personality with the Hyuga, the Nara personality with the Nara, and so forth. It was real tough at first, getting down ticks like the Uchiha patented H-in, being lazy like the Nara, but Naruto did it. He got to the point that feeling Uchiha, Inuzuka, Akimichi, whichever clan he was attempting to be, it all felt natural to him. So little Naruto-chan had an interesting case of multiple personality disorder. But it wasn't random, and Naruto got to the point that he could change the personalities on a dime, implying that a 9th personality had developed to control the rest, and the scary part was that it wasn't Naruto's inner darkness that was doing it. Hell, that part of Naruto's being was so overloaded with the different personalities that the poor thing was off sobbing in a distant corner of Naruto's mind, being comforted by the Nine-Tails, who was kinda amazed the boy had become so complex. Not even Naruto was consciously aware of the 9th personality, though. No one knew. Naruto knew he had to keep up his covers, and the adults and kids all passed it off as Naruto being an innocent kid and wanting to be like them. How were they to know that Naruto's character was so fragmented to the point that it was probably best if Inoichi took a look at him? The boy seemed to have his little game under control. Why spoil the fun? It was great fun at parties. Where's Naruto? Little Choji Akimichi asked, having just arrived at Shikamaru's birthday party. He's out back with Shikamaru. Shikaku explained to the Akimichi boy, who ran off to be with his friends. Choji ran up to the 2 boys with a potato chip bag in hand. He found it odd that Naruto was in the exact same position as Shikamaru, cause he never seemed to care one way or another for cloud watching while he was at his family's place. But here, he seemed right at home. Hey Naruto! I brought you a bag of chips. Like flipping a switch, Naruto sat up excitedly and tore into the huge bag like a wolf. Thanks Choji. I was starving. Shikamaru's brows knit together at Naruto's declaration. Just a couple minutes ago, he and the blonde had turned down their mother's offer for lunch, both agreeing they weren't hungry yet. Then they continued lazily watching the clouds. Now Choji comes along, and suddenly it's like he's Choji's clone. It only gets weirder from there. Naruto! Don't you know junk food's not good for you? Help me get these lazybones to play a few rounds of musical chairs. Ino Yamanaka bossily stomped up the trio, and like flipping another switch, Naruto was acting just like Ino. You're right. I don't want to get fat. Naruto flippantly tossed the bag of chips away, and proceeded to boisterously boss Shikamaru and Choji around. Well, after Choji punched him into a tree for implying he was fat. You don't have to act like each of us, Naruto, Shikamaru feebly pointed out. Naruto only further pushed him along. Know what you're talking about. Move your lazy butt. Get your rear in gear. Naruto barked. Shikamaru's sweat dropped, and decided to drop the issue. He probably didn't want to know whatever the hell Naruto thought he was doing. Most of the time Naruto's cover was flawless, though. Most of the time he was just hanging about the individual clan compounds, and didn't have to worry about friends coming over for visits. He does know he doesn't have a hive like you and Shino, right? Shibi's wife whispered to him. They were watching Shino and Naruto playing in the back, interacting with the parasitic insects. Oddly enough, Naruto didn't seem to be scaring the bugs away. Yes, but it is so adorable. Shibi replied softly, touched that Minato's boy would be this kind to the parasitic insects. Shibi's wife found it weird, but wasn't about to shatter her husband's evident cheer. Hey, she married into the Aburame clan, so even if she found the Aburame way of interacting with bugs on a regular basis as slightly disturbing, she wouldn't speak out against it because that was taboo and rude to the Aburame anyway. Besides, Shibi's wife wouldn't let a few colonies of parasitic insects get in between her happy marriage with Shibi. It must have been the coat. So alluring and mysterious, covering up so much of Shibi's body. You do realize you are abusing branch house members for no good reason, Hizashi deadpanned as he locked eyes with his brothers. Hayashi shrugged helplessly as he turned back to little Naruto-chan, mimicking the hand sign that he sometimes used to discipline branch house members by activating their caged bird seals. I can't help it, it's so adorable. Hayashi chuckled with mirth, as he himself carried out the actual discipline without Naruto's knowledge. It wasn't Naruto-chan's fault that he couldn't actually discipline branch house members. It took more than a hand sign. It took a main house member being attuned to the caged bird seal, and that Naruto-chan did not have going for him. So rather than disappoint Minato's son, the horror, Hayashi secretly followed him around, and whenever Naruto tried to discipline someone over the slightest infraction, Hayashi would be in range to do it. Sure, it irked the branch house, especially Hizashi, but Naruto-chan's smile meant the world to Hayashi. Hizashi huffed, and began to walk away from his brother. Just a heads up. If you activate my seal or Nijis when Naruto tries to do that, I will 64 palms you in the balls. Don't test me. Hayashi shivered at the threat, but quickly nodded in agreement. He could only hope Naruto didn't try that, or he might have a crisis on his hands. Naruto-chan's happiness, or to keep his fertility intact, truly a difficult decision. Mom, little Hana called over to the woman in a hushed voice as she pointed at the scene. Naruto does know that's a tiger, right? Not a dog? Some shivered. Naruto knew perfectly well that wasn't a damn dog, but he thought it would be okay to keep a kitty on the Inuzuka premises, since the Inuzuka all had pets too. Naruto-chan just had the horrible luck of choosing the one kitty that would never become Dog Chow, the one he'd come to know ever since that little run-in with it in the Forest of Death. And unfortunately for Tsum, Hiruzen made her promise not to release whatever pet Naruto wanted to keep. It was just Tsum's misfortune that the brat couldn't take his pet with him when he hopped from clan to clan. Why oh why did the brat want a tiger for a pet? Chapter 4. The real trouble for Naruto began when he started the academy with the kids he'd been raised with. You could say that all the clan heirs and sibling to a clan heir together in one place for a good portion of the day was a bad thing. Naruto simply couldn't maintain all 7 of his clan covers while they're at the academy, so he defaulted to his natural persona. Now you might think this is a good thing, because the kids growing up with Naruto got to have a glimpse of the real Naruto. But the academy instructors would beg to differ. They were honestly at a loss with how to treat Naruto's academic standing, how to grade him, evaluate him, etc. This is because Naruto wanted to have a cover in every setting, and no one had bothered to correct the boy's understanding of a cover. Frankly, everyone was still under the impression that Naruto was playing some sort of game. Basically, Naruto wanted to be the class dead last, even with all the goodies he got from the clans to help him academically and as a shinobi. If he ever, and we do mean ever, did something halfway decent, Naruto would make some sort of threatening gesture that would promise the instructor pain and misery if he called Naruto on his slip-up and gave him a passable grade. Poor Iruka ended up being the last man standing when all the other instructors refused to teach Naruto's class on account of being pranked for ruining the boy's cover. The brunette didn't even have an assistant anymore, because poor Mizuki had a run-in with Naruto's pet kitty, Kogen Saidenki, Testicle Shredder. On account that the tiger had a tendency to, well, go nuts. Poor Mizuki. So for the last couple of years of Naruto's education, his sole teacher was Iruka. Hiruzen Sarutobi was none the wiser to Naruto's mischief-making because few of the pranks could actually be traced back to Naruto, and the boy caught no flack from Mizuki due to the simple fact that the man was secretly a traitor and spy for Orochimaru. So the boy had done the village a service in that regard, even if the method he used was slightly savage. It should have been really simple for Iruka. He'd seen the consequences happen to his coworkers. All he had to do was fail the boy in everything. Simple. But then you factor in parent-teacher conferences, and then things get awkward. Lord Hayashi? You can go. I need to talk to the next parent. Iruka told the man sternly. Student confidentiality was very important to the brunette teacher. A heated glare was what he got for his troubles. You spoke of Hinata. I need to speak to you in regards to Naruto. He is slipping again. Not you too, Iruka whimpered. Aloud, he said, "We very well go wait next door with the other parents for that particular child. You're the 6th one that's asked about him, and I'm sure Chozo will want to have a word, too." With a decisive nod, Hayashi strode out of the classroom with a pompous air. Iruka surreptitiously drank from a flask that contained sake. Funny, before Naruto, Iruka drank alcohol in moderation. He'd long since learned the folly of doing so, because he needed something to make the horrible memories go away. Parent-teacher conferences were once such thing. On the one hand, he wasn't being fair to Naruto academically. The boy was above being a dead last. On the other, he knew what was waiting for him if he ever raised Naruto's grades even slightly. It wasn't his fault. Naruto wanted everyone to underestimate him. Naruto's parents wanted him at the top, where he belonged. And Iruka was trapped in the middle. To add insult to injury, Iruka's students were plotting against him. Iruka-sensei's being totally unfair to Naruto. Ino Yamanaka punched the air in aggravation and gritted her teeth. Daddy still hasn't found a way to make that man see reason. I vote we make that man's life a living hell until he makes Naruto Rookie of the Year. Cha! Sasuke snorted and shook his head. Naruto's good, but not that good, Ino. I'm Rookie of the Year. Naruto is the second best student. Close second. He didn't want to insult Naruto's skills, but he also didn't want to admit that the boy was possibly better than him. If he couldn't be better than Naruto, then what chance did he have of eventually escaping Itachi's shadow? I'm with you there though. Iruka's gotta pay. As some of the clan heirs started throwing ideas about, Sakura Haruno leaned over to Choji. Not that I'm ungrateful, but why was I dragged into this? Naruto's so annoying, asking me for dates all the time. Choji's sweat dropped and slightly sympathized with Sakura. But only slightly. Sakura should be grateful that Naruto was asking her out. That was Choji's theory anyway. Probably because Ino forgot your family isn't in the rotation. Naruto was adopted by all of our parents, so it's kind of important that we get Iruka-sensei back for being unfair to Naruto. He's our brother, you know? Sakura went quiet at this explanation. Naruto was adopted by all the major clan heads. I mean, I guess that was obvious, but I never really noticed that before. Naruto Baka's always been Naruto Baka. Why would the clan heads? Sakura made a strange choking sound as it hit her like a ton of bricks. She just so happened to see his photograph in the history book today as she skimmed it. The similarity was uncanny now that she envisioned Naruto's face. His shock yellow hair, his clear blue eyes. How the hell had no one noticed up till now? Was Ino aware of it? Were all these clan kids in on it? Everyone seemed to stop in their nefarious plots as they each heard Sakura's muffled screech. Sakura? You okay? Ino asked her best friend, who shook her head and stared accusingly at the lot of them. You're all selfish, keeping Naruto for yourselves. I'm telling my parents. Sakura bolted out of the clearing they were in, leaving a bunch of confused clan heirs behind. What's her problem? Kiba muttered. He received a bunch of shrugs and eyed a nose in reply. Civilian kids were weird. Sarutobi felt like slamming his head on his desk, but alas he could not do it for fear that it would scatter the ever-present paperwork. He'd just gotten a request from a civilian clan for the adoption of one Naruto Uzumaki on account of his heritage. He knew this would happen if word leaked out. It wasn't just the clan heads that would be tempted to adopt Minato's child. The boy was practically royalty, even though he also had a demon in his gut. Apparently heritage trumped demon, even in the eyes of civilians. No, Sarutobi stamped his rejection on the adoption paper, absolutely refusing to let another family wiggle into the rotation. It was bad enough that the 7 clans were barely tolerant of one another. There was no way they would accept a couple of civilians. Unfortunately for Hiruzen, the Harunos could hold a grudge when they wanted to. If they didn't get their way, then they would seek revenge, come hell or high water. And the best revenge was spreading word of Naruto's lineage to the other poor, ignorant civilian clans that were being shafted when it came to the 4th Hokage's son. The good news? Hiruzen was able to shut the Harunos, and whoever they got word out to, before it got too far. The bad news? Hiruzen got about 19 more adoption requests, all of which he rejected in rapid succession. If the original 7 clans didn't kill him for allowing the cities in on the monthly rotation, then they would just end up killing as many civilian families as they could get away with, because going for nearly 2 years without Naruto in such a rotation would simply be unacceptable, and Hiruzen really didn't want the massacre of 20 civilian families on his hands. Darn. I failed the graduation exam again. Naruto snapped his fingers in disappointment. He waited for the other test takers to get their chance, and then he approached his sensei. Iruka-sensei, is there some kind of extra credit assignment I could do to barely pass? I really want to be a ninja, Databale. Iruka was sweating buckets at the wide, innocent eyes Naruto was showing him. If he didn't come up with something on the fly, he was likely going to get a surprise nightly visit from Kogen. And that was something Iruka could really do without. Well, I suppose you could steal the Forbidden Scroll from the Hokage Tower and learn a jutsu from it. But wait until tonight to do it. Iruka was quick to add. Kami knew Iruka would need the time to go to the Hokage about it. Oh, he'd be chewed out for suggesting something so irresponsible. But in fairness, Naruto couldn't do the regular clone jutsu, so that was one aspect of school he genuinely failed at. The shadow clone jutsu was doubtlessly on that scroll with it being so chakra exhaustive, so Naruto could learn that and pass like he wanted to. Moreover, Iruka needed the extra time to plead with the Hokage to really put on a show with guarding that scroll. Naruto absolutely could not find this to be easy. Kami help Iruka if the blonde did. If he found the extra credit to be easy, he'd probably sick Kogen on him. And Iruka really wanted to be a dad someday. Huh. I didn't know you had the power to come in here so soon, brat. No one's told you about me yet. I don't know what you mean, Databale. I closed my eyes and tried brainstorming ways to steal the Forbidden Scroll, and suddenly I'm in a sewer with a fox trapped in a cage. What is all this? Databale. The Ninetales twitched at the verbal tick, just like Kushina Great. The beast rumbled. Kushina? Naruto raised an inquisitive eyebrow. Needless to say, the Ninetales face palmed. He forgot it was hard to keep secrets from the brat in here. But then inspiration struck like a bolt of lightning. That 9th personality probably orchestrated this little meet and greet, so why not feed it information? It was probably for the best to stay on the brat's good side. Ninetales really had no leg to stand on with the boy's inner darkness so traumatized by the boy's special case of split personality, and besides, the boy would be much more entertaining than the previous prisons. Sicking the tiger on that one teacher-assistant guy had been nearly made the Ninetales choke on his laughter, and he didn't breathe like humans did. You see, Naruto, it all started when you were born. The Ninetales grinned, showing off his many teeth, and the blonde listened with rapt attention. It was an eye-opening experience, hearing all about his heritage and the circumstances that led up to his joint adoption. Databale. Chapter 5. Time passed, and Naruto's Genin team was sent on its first C-rank mission, but you're all probably wondering about what happened before that. Well, needless to say, there was a quick, dirty fight about the placement of teams. Naruto learned a jutsu off the Forbidden Scroll, or at least people thought he only picked up a single jutsu, so it was argued that a boy capable of not only stealing the Forbidden Scroll but learning a technique without killing himself couldn't possibly be a dead last. So Sarutobi had a headache on his hands, with Naruto once again being involved in a massive tug-of-war. Only no one was willing to share this time, couldn't share because this was a genin team and not adoption, and he had the additional headache of Jonin lining up to be Naruto's instructor. This was further complicated by the esteemed clans of the Hidden Leaf being snooty and turning their noses up at certain Jonin. But you're probably wondering why the Jonin were interested in Naruto. Well, that's a story for another day really, but the abbreviated story was that Kakashi Hatake was a petty Synovovich who spread word around the Jonin lounge when Sarutobi potentially considered passing him up as Naruto's teacher, and after Kakashi had promised Minato-sensei and Kushina-sama at their graves that he would take Naruto under his wing. The nerve of that heartless third Hokage. Oh, retirement was definitely looking more appealing by the day. But Sarutobi couldn't be petty and passed the hat off to the Hatake brat in revenge. Who knew what havoc Hatake would wreak, what with the Naruto complex he had going on. It got to the point that Sarutobi decided he would put his foot down. Naruto certainly didn't give a rat's ass about what team he'd be on. He just wanted people to underestimate him. And the clan heads were being annoying, whiny 5-year-old brats who were pretending they were fairy princesses that absolutely had to have their way because they were so pure. Or something like that. That's all that Sarutobi was seeing. Sarutobi was going with his initial plan of putting Naruto on a team with Sasuke and Sakura. Too much of a hassle to rearrange the teams in that regard. All that was left was to choose the Jonin leader. Now who to choose? Not Hatake. Sarutobi didn't care what promises were made. If that impudent brat couldn't bother to get over his team's death and adopt Naruto, thus saving Sarutobi the trouble of creating this joint adoption system in the first place, or hell, even just introduce himself and be friends with Naruto, then he didn't deserve to train a boy he was entitled to. Besides, Hatake would probably neglect the other two, and Sarutobi was not going to show Naruto favoritism and put him in an apprenticeship. He was going to be in a 4-man cell like everyone else. But who else? Who else not Asuma? That risked Naruto picking up smoking, and more than one clan would have a beef with that. Inuzuka at the forefront. Kurenai-chan wasn't a bad choice, but her skill set clashed with Naruto's somewhat. Naruto genuinely sucked at genjutsu. And the blonde didn't have tracker material, nor did Sasuke or Sakura for that matter. Well, okay, Sasuke might have given the time to awaken his Sharingan, but again with the matter of playing favorites, not Ebisu. No. Sarutobi might have been okay with his fellow closet pervert, but if it ever became public knowledge that he placed Naruto under the wing of a pervert, it would be his head on the chopping block, not Ebisu's. That would be too merciful. Another reason that Kakashi was unqualified. He was a raging pervert with that pervertedly perverted book of his flaunted about so casually. The pervert. Even though Sarutobi collected the same series of books, Aoba was terrible at keeping confidential secrets, so he'd be a bad fit for Team 7. Genma knew the Flying Thunder God, even if it took him and 2 others to perform it, and Sarutobi did not want to give Naruto more speed. Kami knew the boy had enough of it with that Shisui-style shunshin of his. Ibiki wasn't in danger of dying anytime soon, so he didn't need little chibi interrogators with his level of proficiency. Sarutobi sure wasn't making one of the clan heads the Jonin leader. The others would riot at the favoritism shown. Itachi was a possibility, but Sakura might get neglected. Anko Mitarashi was long overdue for a promotion. It wasn't her fault that Danzo and Sarutobi's teammates were paranoid about her potential allegiances. Yes, Anko would make 3 little terrors and serve as Sarutobi's figurative middle finger to the picky clan heads and his annoying council. Sarutobi loved the premise, so for once he gleefully set to work filling out the paperwork. This brings us to the present with Team 7's first C rank. A month after academy graduation, and already all the members of Team 7 were plotting to riot. They'd put up with tedious D ranks because the dazzling and wondrous Anko-sama had tons of neat parlor tricks to teach them, and different ways to make D ranks fun. Poor Tora. Only now the fun was slipping away, and Team 7 was collectively getting bored. Accidents tended to happen when Anko got bored, and she had kind of drilled the same concept into her adorable trio of minions, her title for them, not Sarutobi's. Sarutobi didn't want to incite the 5th Great Paint War, so he gave them a C rank with the highest probability of conflict. No, Sarutobi had not bought that lie that bridge builder had fed the mission office. What did you take him for? A wet behind there's genin. He pitted that old drunk. Really, he probably had high-level ninjas after his ass, and he was being given a team of psychopaths. Well, a psychopath and 3 psychos in training. Moreover though, Sarutobi pitted the ninjas that tried to take the bridge builder's head. After all, Tazuna just had to be in the company of Team 7. The enemy ninja would be fighting Team 7. Those poor, deluded fools. Zabuza blinked slowly as he took in the bridge builder's guard detail. The purple-haired bitch in a trench coat looked oddly familiar, and the midgets in different colored trench coats looked a little too mischievous for his tastes. Blondie wore an orange trench coat, Pinkie wore a maroon-colored trench coat, and the black-haired boy had a blue trench coat. Perhaps he should bring Haku out early? A few moments later, After they'd exchanged first blows and the purple-haired bitch had cut into him with a kunai, Zabuza finally placed the face. It helped that she licked his blood off the kunai and gave a speech eerily familiar to the one he was planning to give about pressure points on the body. "You're that sadistic Mitarashi bitch!" Zabuza yelled, slightly frantic as he backed away from the kunoichi. It was one thing to hold a modicum of respect for a sadistic interrogator from another village that obviously deserved it, respected from a distance. Mind you, it was another kettle of fish entirely to be forced into battle with said sadistic interrogator. Oh, Zabuza would be having words with Gato. You did not offer A-rank pay for what was obviously an S-rank mission. It was just not done. Ooh, call me a bitch, will you? Enko offered a sugary sweet, closed-eyes smile. That's how Zabuza knew he was well and truly fucked. Children, first one who brings me Zabuza's spleen gets to learn that sword-swallowing trick that you've all been pining after. Yada! Naruto crowed and pumped his fist in the air. He looked between Sakura and Sasuke, who were grinning and smirking respectively. You guys hit him high, I'll hit him low? Sasuke looked contemplative, while Sakura huffed frustratingly. Fine. But no Kogen. Ah. Naruto pouted. He wanted to test the summon seal that the wonderful and beautiful Enko-sama had helped him create. Sasuke scoffed at Sakura's stipulation. If Naruto can't use Kogen, you can't use those damn poisons to paralyze the guy for 72 hours. Sasuke paused when Sakura smiled hopefully. Or those hallucinogens. But Sasuke-kun. Sakura pouted similarly to Naruto. Sasuke-kun was using fighting words now. Those hallucinogens were the great equalizers. She couldn't fight like Naruto or Sasuke-kun otherwise. Thump! Team 7 collectively turned to see Zabuza lying on the ground with a saban sticking out of the back of his neck. Enko gestured to the fallen swordsman. See why you don't haggle like that, minions? Silly restraints will allow someone to steal your kill. Now no one gets to learn sword swallowing. She relished in the defeated moans of her genin. This is what being a jonin instructor was all about. She frowned when a hunter-nin hopped down to collect Zabuza's body. Hey, no. We get first dibs. You go away until we're done. Haku sweated nervously behind his mask. This was what he was trying to save Zabuza-sama from. Haku wasn't even going to try reasoning with Crazy Incarnate, but he also couldn't let these people loot Zabuza-sama's corpse. I'm sorry, but I'll be taking this body with me. Haku got ready to disappear in a shunshin, without Zabuza-sama's blade, regrettably, when the blonde boy disappeared in a blur and reappeared above Haku, delivering a heel drop kick down harshly on the fake hunter-nin. Woo-pa! Naruto grinned as his surprise attack conked Haku out like a light. He looked up at Enko-sama and gave his best puppy dog eyes look. Pwetty please, Enko-sama. Sword swallowing, please. Normally, Enko would be able to resist the puppy dog eyes. Hell, she practically invented them, after all. But she couldn't just say no to Naruto, or Sasuke or Sakura when they threw in their own puppy dog eyes. Damn them for taking after her so effectively it brought a womanly tear to her eye. They made her so damn proud. Okay, but first we need to get these two back to the Hidden Leaf, and get this old drunk escorted home. Tazuna took this amazing opportunity to be finally rid of the crazy. Actually, it's alright. I can see my house from here and well, you've obviously taken out the main threat to my super bridge. Nonsense. We're gonna escort you and defend you until we get our money's worth. Enko slung an arm around the old drunk and grinned toothily. Besides, this Gato guy might have more goodies for us to send back home. We already got 2 new Chunin, a hunter-nin, and very likely a former hidden Miss Swordsman, if my theory about his death is correct. As Enko was consoling the inwardly sobbing drunk, still outwardly retaining a sense of calmness, barely, Naruto was making shadow clones to carry Haku and Zabuza back to the Hidden Leaf by a series of shunshins. Sasuke already called dibs on the executioner's blade, and Sakura and Naruto knew well enough to uphold the standing tradition of dibs. Dibs was absolute, you know. First they got Gozu and Meizu, those demon brothers jokers, and now they capture these two and a hidden miss blade. Man, today was a good day to be Team 7. Enko sniffled and wiped a womanly tear from her eye as she stood next to the bridge builder about a week after that encounter with Zabuza. Gato ended up coming with a horde of thugs, intent on not paying the demon of the hidden mist, and she didn't have to do a thing except enjoy her front row seat. Damn it, you brats make me so proud. Enko bawled happily as she watched Naruto unleash Kogen on the hapless thugs, Sasuke wield the executioner's blade, and Sakura pumping her hallucinogens into Gato and as many thugs as she could. In essence, Gato and his men were going crazy, and a lot of them were getting killed off. Tazuna was whimpering off to the side of Enko, hoping that these crazies didn't turn on him next. He liked living. Another glorious day to be Team 7. Haku, Zabuza-sama? How the hell did we wind up in this mess? Zabuza idly flicked a thumb on the metal of his new Hidden Leaf hideout. Haku did not have an answer for Zabuza-sama. The money Gato was shelling out had been too good to pass up, and now they were in the employ of another great nation. All they had wanted was to raise the funds to raise up a revolution in the Hidden Mist and take down Yagura. That's all they wanted. It really didn't help that the pair of them were being fought over by the major clans of the Hidden Leaf, who wanted the prestige that a former Hidden Mist swordsman and a wielder of an ice Keki Genkai would bring. But then again, they weren't really the worst of it all. 'cause there was that old cripple who was giving off pedophilic signals. Something along the lines of, "I want your babies." Yes, Haku believed that the creepy old man was subtly sending that kind of message with those leers. They could always try to make a break for it, but that would risk being chased after by that sadistic Mitarashi bitch, and Zabuza-sama absolutely did not want that to happen. Ever. Chapter 6. And Team 7, Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki, YAXON. A cackle rent the air as that team was called out. There were 5 distinctive sighs of defeat, while a dark cloud of self-pity hung over Shino. Sasuke just smirked smugly, while Naruto fiddled with his, or rather, Irika's former, new headband happily. Oddly enough, it had been Sakura to make such an eccentric exclamation. She looked between Sasuke and Naruto with a twitchy, drooling smile on her face. Did she get the luck of the draw or what? If things didn't pan out with Sasuke-kun, she could totally cash in on all those date proposals Naruto kept pestering her about. Hottie with Bishinin good looks, or the son of the former Hokage. She couldn't possibly lose to Inopig now. Who says we need to stop at just the one? Fufufu inner Sakura was rubbing her hands together and cackling at the prospect of pulling the clan restoration act. Oh sure, technically that applied to Naruto, but what the hell. Inner Sakura didn't need an excuse to get into multiple boys' pants. She was just plain greedy, to outer Sakura's slight dismay, but only slight. Who's gonna be our sensei, Irika-sensei? Naruto piped up when he realized the brunette was waiting for the class to settle down. That would be. The door slammed open, and in walked a man with a face mask and silvery hair. He ran up to Naruto and hugged the stuffing out of him. Me. Kakashi laughed in an unhinged manner. Irika simply shook his head and crossed his arms in a disapproving manner. Lord Hokage thought you might try something like this. Hatake, you're late to your first therapy session anyway. You'd best run along now. Irika nodded firmly, and instructed Biki and Genma to haul Kakashi away. Of course Kakashi made a good effort to slip out of their ironclad grasps, but it was all for naught, as Aoba, Ebisu, Itachi, and Hana were all there to recapture him even if he did manage to escape Genma and Ibiki. Sure, some had jobs that they should be doing, Ibiki, but they needed to keep their solidarity. If they couldn't be Naruto's sensei, then neither could Kakashi. Well, Hana didn't particularly want to be Naruto's sensei, but she was there on account that her mother couldn't be. None of the clan heads were free to keep Kakashi in check, so it fell to them, the rest of the rejects, to keep this one reject in line. 'Cause Kakashi really wanted to teach Naruto. No, really, who's our sensei? Naruto asked eagerly, as if that hadn't just happened. Irika smiled benignly and opened his mouth to speak again, but once more the door slammed open, revealing the sexy Anko Mitarashi who grinned. Despite having just escaped being tied up by Hatake, she would deal with him later. She was still riding the high of becoming a full-fledged jonin, and reveling in the fact that Lord Hokage was finally allowing her a genin team. There was so much Anko wanted to pass on to them. She was getting glitter-eyed at the thought of it all. That would be me, the sexy Anko Mitarashi. She grinned and bounced on her heels. She motioned for them to follow her. Come on up to the roof. As Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke, in that order, got into a single file line behind Anko like little ducklings, they all took their leave. Only one thought flitted through the minds of the remaining males in the room, including Irika. Lucky bastards. So, introduction time, kiddos. Anko gestured for Team 7 to sit down on the rooftop, while she sat down on a ledge, propping her legs up provocatively. I'll start. I'm the sexy and amazing Anko Mitarashi. I like sweet bean soup, dango, tea, torturing for information, and torturing in general, really. I mean, who doesn't, right? Ooh, especially when I can get my victims to squeal in, like a crude 7-part symphony. That's great fun. And licking up blood, that's great fun at parties or anywhere in general. I guess I hate spicy crap and my former sensei. My hobby is tea ceremonies, laugh and I'll gut you, and my dream, nay my ambition, is to one day slay my former sensei slowly, preferably starting out with the carving out of his eyes and placing frayed electrical cords into the empty eye sockets after dumping water in them. From there, Anko delved into some diabolical laughter there at the end, much to the confusion of her genin. Well, until Sasuke raised his hand and asked for confirmation. Your sensei was Orochimaru, wasn't it? At Anko's stern, unhappy nod, Sasuke sighed. I thought so. Would it be unethical to ask if I could get in on that action? Anko looked horrified at something Sasuke had said. You unethical? Rinse out your mouth with soap. Of course it wouldn't. We're shinobi. Ethics went out the window the second you tied that headband on. Anko placed a hand over her heart dramatically, but then dropped the theatrics for now. But what kind of beef do you have with the bastard? You're too young to have ever met him. Bastard's a pedophile, and he's pretty high up on my clan's list of people who need to die slowly and painfully. Sasuke nodded decisively, as if any of that made sense at all. When you grew up in a household filled with Fugaku, Mikoto, and Itachi Uchiha, you were bound to grow up a little eccentric yourself. But don't let them know you think they're eccentric. Kami help you if you do. Pedophile? Sakura squawked, having read none of that in the history textbooks. But if it was true, she'd be lending a hand at killing the bastard too. No one like that should ever get the chance to touch a hair on Sasuke-kun or Naruto's heads. Naruto was pretty confused too, Databayo. But Anko only snickered and didn't bother to elaborate, nor did Sasuke. But that was because he was clueless as to where that idea came from. After her sensei abandoned the village and became known for going after kids with bloodlines and trying to add bloodlines to babies that didn't, Anko might have helped nudge those rumors along, but in fairness, Anko was feeling slightly vindictive at the time. Not like the bastard needed any sympathy for his personal beliefs. At any rate, they went through the introductions, and Anko helped nudge her little super brats into career choices that she thought would be good for them. Naruto as Hokage? She'd let that one fly. Kami knows someone will have to take the hat from Sarutobi someday, and she didn't want it to be one of those old crows. Particularly the cripple. Best to let it be someone she would have a hand in teaching, right? Sakura was a bit too fangirlish for Anko's tastes, so she would be fueling those urges in one of two possible directions: seduction. Outer Sakura was vocally opposed. Inner Sakura was vocally all for it, or ti. It should be obvious which one she went for. And Sasuke, well, Anko found it kind of cute that the super brat wanted to be the one to kill all those people on that list he brought up earlier, but found it kind of unrealistic. Too many of those were high profile, and he'd only assist kill her former sensei. Plus, those urges to kill would likely make him a loose cannon, so Anko nudged him in a slightly more constructive direction. Sasuke would protect his clan, which included Naruto, escape Itachi's shadow, and develop a hobby of collecting swords. Sasuke was initially opposed to that last idea, but after the great and wonderful Anko-sama showed him a few pictures of some hidden mist blades, he was salivating. Yup, Anko knew she made the right call about Sasuke's potential interest in swords. So, here's the thing. Anko said once all introductions were over with. Technically I'm supposed to test you guys for teamwork and crap, but I think we all want the same thing, right? I want a genin team, and you guys want to be kick-ass shinobi. So, screw a pass or fail test. We're gonna have you guys do a little exercise that will be mutually beneficial. Afterwards, we'll get you guys properly outfitted for trench coats. And I'll teach you guys how to lick blood off kunai. Kakashi's sacred collection of Aika didn't know what hit it, and Kakashi's been on his best behavior ever since. Anko beamed proudly, finished retelling her first days with Team 7. The other Jonin sensei sitting across from her at the bar were sharing weird glances, but not really commenting on Anko's way of teaching, or her way of handling Jonin who overstepped their bounds. Hey, no one wanted to risk a Team 7 special because Anko got annoyed with their attitudes. Kakashi's collection had been so heavily protected that not even Guy would attempt anything against his eternal rival. Somehow, Anko had gotten the layout of Kakashi's defenses and gotten it to her genin. If not even Kakashi's books were safe, then none of them were safe unless they stayed on Anko's good side. Chapter 7. So, Chunin exams. Who's willing to nominate their team? Sarutobi had his secretary, who so happened to be Haku, ready to write down entries. Both old man and teenage boy shook their heads when Anko spoke up first, exuberantly. This was to be expected. Team 7, Sarutobi looked to Iruka, as if expecting the man to speak out against the decision to enter Naruto's team, but the brunette had this faraway look in his eyes and cheeks had a pink tinge to them. The old man grumbled under his breath at the sight, because there were several perverted reasons why Iruka could be blushing at a time like this. Lucky bastard better not have gotten to see too much. Say what you will about Anko Midarashi's personality, but Anko is a very beautiful and perky young woman. Oh Kami, here comes the nosebleed. I nominate Team 8, Kurenai spoke up while everyone else did their best to ignore how the Hokage was dabbing his nose with a tissue, and how Iruka was blushing. Haku just had this faraway look in his eye that no one could discern. Was he thinking of something good or something bad? More importantly, was it kinky? Ahem. That was the male side. The female side, minus Anko, was thinking of how men were all pigs. Anko was just too lost in her own little world. She so had the best minions ever. Unsurprisingly, few other teams actually made nominations. Asuma was hesitant, and it took a slightly irate Kurenai to get him to show a little initiative. If she and Anko were confident enough to enter in their teams, then Asuma should, too. But Asuma, he was actually thinking ahead. These kids were a tightly knit group, they would be helping each other pass, and that might upset the playing field and tilt it in the Hidden Leaf's favor. Blow it to Kingdom Come, really? Unbeknownst to most of the other Jonin, a relatively mild-mannered, sandy-haired Jonin with glasses was having an internal struggle himself. He'd already nominated Kabuto-kun's team, but he was wondering if he should take it back. Not because he lacked faith in his team, though Kabuto had failed the exams several times, but Kabuto-kun showed an oddly zealous reverence of the young Uzumaki, who was on Anko-chan's team. The origin of this reverence was unknown, and Kabuto-kun managed to keep a tight lid on it for the most part, but it was kind of creepy when you caught your genin sneaking jars of candy into the blonde's various bedrooms every now and then. How the hell Kabuto snuck into the compounds and delivered the candy without getting caught was beyond his sensei's understanding. The strangest part was that none of it was poisoned or tampered with in any way. It was strictly sugary goodness. Much to the ire of Naruto's adoptive families, they didn't dare take it away from the blonde, upsetting Naruto. The horror! All the man knew was that it was creepy, and he wished he never discovered that side of his young student. You realize she's going to get you like a trout when she realizes you're spying on her team again. Shut up, Zabuza. I'm trying to listen. Kakashi hissed and resumed paying attention to Team 7. Kakashi didn't have the time to entertain his occasional drinking buddy. Anko was just getting to the big announcement. Kakashi had a camera and everything to preserve Naruto's reaction forever. Kakashi certainly did not shriek like a little girl when a volley of kunai was thrown into the bushes he was hiding within. Zabuza had already disappeared in a shunshin, the bastard. Now that the girly man is gone, Anko smiled widely, but then frowned sternly again a moment later. Beat it, Hataki. Or did you not learn your lesson the last time? You can replace books, but I bet you can't replace your testicles. Naruto and Sasuke shivered at the threat. You know all men have a psychic connection with their friends when the balls are threatened. A sparkly shine in Sakura's eyes was not encouraging either. She was learning way too much from the gorgeous Anko-sama. Anko huffed in frustration when Hataki was back a third time, this time with Zabuza as a meat shield. Children, stay here, please. Anko-sama's got this. Anko grinned demurely and shined to Hataki's position. The collective girly screams were music to Sakura's ears. Naruto and Sasuke shivered again, and Bother were muttering and offering up prayers to whatever deity was out there so that Kakashi and Zabuza's testicles might be shown mercy. Naruto might be the kind of guy to sick Kogen on people who deserved it, but Kakashi and Zabuza weren't all that bad. Well, Zabuza wasn't. Naruto found Kakashi's obsession with him a bit creepy, and Sasuke was wondering if the man should be added to the list, even though the man was clearly an ally. Well, the list might be a bit extreme if the man persisted further. Sasuke would make the man's life a living hell, though. You didn't come across as a pedophile when it came to Sasuke's immediate family. It was just not done. Kakashi, Itachi, I am going to take a leap of faith and trust you with the positions of second and third proctors respectively. Kakashi, I have a crystal ball and I'm not afraid to use it, so no favoritism. Itachi, I am giving the position to you merely because I know you would find some way to take Hyatt's place anyway. Hiruzen sighed as Itachi smiled blissfully and Kakashi I smiled despite the threat. Now there was just the trivial matter of keeping the clan heads from interfering with the exams in any way and to make sure Danzo and his men hadn't stolen Zabuza away. Hiruzen might have made the ice-style boy his personal secretary and ward, but he couldn't very well force Zabuza into the Sarutobi compound if he didn't want to go. Zabuza was still fair game. You should really watch where you're going. Kid Kankuro sneered and held Konohamaru up menacingly, but instead, the brunette didn't seem very scared at all. He was even giving Kankuro a deadpan stare. I give you a 3 out of 10. You're not really scary, pal. Do you even know the proper way to lick the blood off a kunai? Kankuro blinked in confusion at just how calm the boy was. Did he not see that he could be punched or worse at any given moment? Oh, there you are, Konohamaru. I've been looking all over for you. And then away went the calm and collectedness. Keep her away. Keep her away. Please. Konohamaru sobbed and begged Kankuro, prompting his fellow brunette to drop him. Konohamaru just scurried away after that. Kankuro got a good look at the pink-haired, maroon coat-wearing girl in front of him. Just what kind of style was that? Ah, shucks. You just had to have butterfingers, didn't you? Oh well, I guess you'll suffice. And then the pink-haired bitch hit him with some kind of weird dart that made him go rigid and unmoving. What did you do to Kankuro? Tamari yelled angrily as she strode up to the girl who oh so casually began to drag the puppet boy behind her, as if she'd done nothing wrong. 2 test subjects are better than 1. Sakura mused and hit the blonde with the dart, too. Then she was dragging both Sand siblings behind her, plainly ignoring the killing intent that Gaara was leaking up in a tree. Gaara might not feel any love for his siblings, but no one was allowed to experiment on them but him. Nobody. It got even weirder though, when 2 boys in similar trench coats in different colors were sitting with him side by side. One grinning and the other smirking. Sakura-chan's gonna be a while. When she heard we'd be participating in the Chunin exams, she was getting frantic that she was running out of test subjects. Don't worry, your brother and sister will be okay. Almost as an afterthought, Naruto added, well, they might be a little scared when you get them back or really, really happy. Sakura-chan's testing all sorts of hallucinogens these days. Some can make you cry, and some can make you piss yourself. She's shooting for making you feel any type of emotion so that it fits the situation. If Gaara had eyebrows, he would be twitching. Before he could speak up, however, Sasuke raised a pointer finger to shut him up. Aha! You really don't want to go and rescue them. Worst case scenario, you piss Sakura off and she makes you a test subject too. Best case scenario, you provide Sakura with entertainment, and she makes you a test subject. Yup. Definitely twitching. Chapter 8. Just remember, Naruto, no matter the result, you will always be the son I never had. Now get out there and insert your footwear up their posteriors. Hayashi and Naruto shared regal laughter together before Hayashi patted Naruto on the head and bid the boy adieu. As he was on his way out of the academy, Hayashi stopped before another genin team and squinted his eyes at a dark-haired boy. In no uncertain terms, he declared, make sure Naruto and his team passes at all costs. If Naruto fails, I will personally volunteer you for Naruto-kun's next attempt at stand-up comedy. Knowing precisely that Naruto's version of stand-up comedy did not involve Naruto standing up, but rather his audience standing up, upon realizing they were sitting on sharp, pointy objects, Neji vigorously nodded his head in acknowledgement of Hayashi-sama's threat. Once Niji had nodded enough times, approximately 447 times, Hayashi wished Niji and his team good day, but not before sending Niji one last warning glare. You had to be firm about these things, you know? Outside the academy, as Hayashi walked by, Fugaku was having a talk with two older teenage boys. One being a proctor for the exams, and the other her assistant. Yes, in an exam that the other boy was not proctoring. Well, more like both exams, if Naruto-kun ended up needing help on the first exam. The second exam was more daunting, though, being set in the forest of death. Shibi would be helping in a different, more subtle way, that is, making sure all the dangerous bugs stayed the hell away from Team 7 via his parasitic insects. Inoichi had been ready to possess Ibiki for the duration of the first exam, but once he realized just how much Ibiki wanted Team 7 to pass out of everyone else, he felt he didn't need to worry about his son's chances of passing. And of course his daughter was in no danger of failing. Shikaku, Choza, and Sun wouldn't be able to help like the other clan heads, though Shikaku was going to arrange the Chunin evaluations to pass through him before getting to the Hokage, since he was the Jonin commander and all. A bit of overreach in power, but if it secures the promotions of his sons, nothing short of the best for Minato's boy, who was going to be Hokage one day, and Shikamaru, his future advisor. If Shikaku noticed Fugaku grooming Itachi and or Sasuke for the other advisor role, he didn't show it. But enough about the scheming clan heads and their minions, or clansmen. Team 7 had just gotten past the poor attempt at weeding out the stupid, without tipping off the stupid that they were being duped, to boot, and now they were with the real competition, waiting to be let in the classroom. We know how this goes. The rookies make some big talk about all the amateurs in the room with them, drawing a lot of attention to themselves and pissing a lot of people off, and then Kabuto walks up practically exuding experience. Well, that and a bit of familiarity? And a bit of jealousy. Definitely a bit of jealousy in there. Naruto-kun and friends. Kabuto made an awkward coughing noise and shook his head vigorously. What did he have to be jealous about? Of course Naruto-kun had friends. His natural charisma would attract nothing but friends. Never mind the idiots who glared and tried to throw rocks and other such things. Kabuto dealt with those fools, personally. Even if Kabuto wanted to vivisect these fools for getting in his way of getting to know Naruto-kun properly, he needed to keep up his loser cover. And so Kabuto delved into his pre-planned speech about the exams and then showed off his awesome ninja info cards. He went a little overboard though, going so far as to show the children all the data he collected, past and present. He showed them every single info card. Every single one. Naturally this would have repercussions for Kabuto, because no amateur genin should have that kind of knowledge, regardless of how many times he's taken the exams. And it was just Kabuto's horrible, dreadful luck that Enko Mitarashi was the Jonin leader of Team 7, because as soon as the genin were ordered to enter the classroom, Sasuke went straight up to Ibiki and whispered in his ear the high likelihood that Kabuto was a spy, basing it off the information Kabuto apparently possessed. They were trained to watch out for things like this, you see. No spy goes unpunished in the Hidden Leaf Village. Well, provided they're flushed out, and provided that they don't try to make a break for it. But that didn't matter in this case. Misumi and Yoroi tried to make a hasty exit through the windows when their team was disqualified and asked to come in for questioning, but weren't they surprised when Shursui Uchiha was right outside to intercept them? Kabuto, while he was higher up in Hidden Sound's chain of command, oddly didn't feel the need to flee, and had turned himself in willingly. And it had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Lord Orochimaru would probably arrange a breakout for him. Frankly, Kabuto was done serving Lord Orochimaru. Fuck the Hidden Sound. If he could get back in good graces with the Hidden Leaf, he could get to be friends with Naruto-kun. You see, Kabuto Yakushi used to have amnesia from everything before his time with Nono and the orphanage. It irked him for a long, long time. This was no longer the case. Because Kabuto remembered now. Naruto-kun was the son of Minato Namikaze, the man who had saved him. When Kabuto was a small boy, he lived a meager life with his parents in a village close to the Hidden Leaf. But one day, some concentrated group of shinobi struck, for whatever reason, and devastated the village, killing off most of the people. The fourth Hokage and his escort happened to be returning from some diplomatic event outside the Hidden Leaf, when they caught wind of the attack, and they had tried to stem the damage done to the village. Alas, they were too late. The village was positively wrecked, and everyone in the village was murdered except for little Kabuto. His parents had stowed him away in a well-hidden crawl space in the attic of their former house, and hadn't it been for a Hyuga, Minato might have never found little Kabuto, who was badly injured and slipping in and out of consciousness. Kabuto had been awake when Minato had gently set him beneath a tree outside his village, but he was soon out like a light after that, so he doesn't know what happened in the interim. But when he woke up again, it was to see Nono and some of the orphanage kids. Basically it was all because of Minato's kindness that he got to live and meet Nono, the most wonderful person in the world. How the hell could he not feel indebted to the blonde? Except with Minato gone, Kabuto couldn't repay the man directly, so he would have to repay the man somehow through his son. The only reason he fell for Lord Orochimaru's honeysweet words of finding an identity all those years ago was because he felt bitter and angry about Nono's death, and so had allied himself with someone that was intent on destroying the village and man that had caused him so much misery. He stayed that way for years, and then about half a year ago, he remembered his very early childhood. So yeah, Kabuto had a purpose in life now, and come hell or high water, Kabuto was going to fulfill it. His eternal allegiance was with Naruto-kun now. Lord Orochimaru would be so fucked once he leaked every bit of information he was privy to as Lord Orochimaru's second-in-command. That's right, everybody who stayed here passes. Ibiki smirked at the shell-shocked genin. Time to rub more salt in the wound. The first 9 questions were nothing. Oh, it showed how clever you could be at information gathering, but even if you had gotten all those questions wrong, it was the 10th one that was the real test. So long as you got that one right, you pass regardless of your total score. Ibiki then went into his mini-sermon about dangerous missions that risked one's lives, and yada yada yada. Basically stuff that the genin should know by heart. But not everyone does because not all people are cut out to be shinobi. Some are cowards, some joined for the wrong reasons altogether, and then there were the people that just needed to die. It wasn't so much that these people were so incompetent, but rather they were so competent that they descended into madness. Not run-of-the-mill madness that highly skilled shinobi attained because they could do whatever the hell they wanted, cause no one could stop them. But madness. Orochimaru brand of madness. Danzo brand of madness. Power, politics, the pursuit of immortality, and money were the 4 core reasons that highly skilled shinobi descended into madness. Although there was a 5th core reason that wasn't so widely known, the goal of attaining world peace. But no one in the Hidden Leaf was aware of that yet. At any rate, once Ibiki had spoken his piece and made the kids want to bash their heads into a wall, Kakashi leaped through one of the already shattered windows and waved at the genin. He chuckled. Yo! I'm the proctor for the second exam. So follow me and Naruto. To Training Ground 44, having given his introduction, Kakashi eccentrically ran over to Naruto, scooped him up, and leaped back out the window without missing a beat. Though Sasuke and Sakura were right on the man's heels, intent on getting their teammate back, and their former classmates were right on their heels to help save Naruto from a potential pedophile. Not a good day to be Kakashi Hatake if the look on Ino-chan and Hinata-chan's faces was any indication. Chapter 9. Snake. Giant snake. Why'd it have to be a snake? Came a bawling, over-the-top shriek of terror. Sasuke had a contemplative look on as he and Sakura were waiting around for their blonde teammate. That shout had just come from him, so he had obviously run into some trouble. Trouble that would likely be upon them at any given moment, but that wasn't what Sasuke was thinking about. He got that line from somewhere. Where have I heard that line before? Sasuke hummed agitatedly as he couldn't quite place it. Sakura nudged him concernedly. Shouldn't we probably do something? Naruto sounds like he could use our help. Sasuke scoffed at the notion. You don't pay attention at all, do you? Aside from the fact that Naruto's just as powerful as I am, he's got way too many stalkers, designated bodyguards that would bail him out at a moment's notice. Cousin Shirsue's in here, you know. He'll be fine. Sasuke rolled his shoulder, and went back to racking his brain for where he had heard that line before, and then she appeared. The disturbing woman that had been sending Sasuke leers back when Kakashi was annoyingly explaining the second exam. The man was infuriatingly sitting up, in a tree with Naruto at his side, his arms slung around the blonde teenager like they were pals. The one with a disturbingly long tongue that was slightly reminiscent of Anko-sama, but only slightly. Kakuka, what do we have here? 2 insects have become caught in my web. Came the woman's disturbing taunt. Sasuke grumbled something about overconfident amateurs before flashing his Sharingan on and breaking out the executioner's blade. The beautiful, wonderful, terrifying Anko-sama had helped him awaken his clan's bloodline. And it wasn't through snakes or physical torture. It was pure, psychological hell. Anko-sama had made him spy on a Fandro meeting that was all about him. But Anko-sama didn't stop there. No. She blew his fucking cover and threw him to the wolves, as it were. All those grubby, greedy hands. His body simply decided that he needed them to bloody survive and escape that hell. Kakuku the Sharingan, and one of the 7 ninja swords. Very promising, Sasuke-kun. Very promising. That makes your body all the more tempting. Sasuke froze mid-movement as he registered just what that bitch had said. Oh no. Oh hell no. He hadn't escaped a pack of those she-devils only to come across a creepy shinobi Fandro. Bad enough that Sakura and Ino were still associated with his Fandro fan club. Though in fairness, Ino was having a lot less to do with it for some obscure reason, and Sakura had been busy doing other things as of late. Regardless, Sakura and Ino were the prominent shinobi fangirls, and he pretty much gotten rid of them for the most part. Now here this girl was, sounding a million times creepier than those two combined. And a billion times more obsessive. Like an army of fangirls. He'd fended an army of them off before, he could do the same here, damn it. And this time he would finish the job instead of run away. While Sasuke had been stuck in his twitchy, traumatized ruminations, that creepy hidden grass kunoichi had begun to move, and so had Sakura. Sakura had been flinging darts like a crazed psychopath, and the grass kunoichi had evaded them all before getting in close and bitch-slapping Sakura away. Nothing would get in this kunoichi's path of getting to Sasuke-kun. Nothing. And then, as if his survival instincts were kicking in, Sasuke broke out of his ruminations and swiped at the kunoichi with the executioner's blade. The sword did its job and cut its target in half, but the kunoichi had regurgitated herself and slithered around Sasuke like a predator before holding him down firmly and sinking fangs into the back of his neck. Sasuke's eyes bulged to the size of saucer plates. This bitch had gone way over the line. Talk like a bitch with no life beyond obsessing over him, fine. But give him a hickey of all fucking things, and Sasuke Uchiha fights back. Sasuke furiously punched the grass kunoichi in the face, trying to get her to let go of his neck, but it was all in vain as some seal was now in place. And when the bitch finally let go, Sasuke felt strange. Exhausted. Vulnerable. Not even Enko-sama had made him feel like this during their intense training sessions. And then the biggest explosion Sasuke had ever heard and seen rocked the nearby area, decorating the forest with snake guts. Even the grass kunoichi seemed a little freaked out by the explosion. What the hell was that? She hissed slowly. Ah, what the hell? We all know this isn't a woman by now. This is Orochimaru, and he is well and truly freaked out that someone could muster an explosion of that size. He hadn't seen something like that since Jiraiya first started getting into seals years and years ago. And the idiot had been in his late teens. There was no way a genin should have been able to conjure up an explosion capable of obliterating one of Manda's oldest sons. It wasn't possible. Now that the snake is taken care of, Naruto noisily grumbled and landed a little bit away from where Sasuke and Orochimaru were at. Sakura landed in a crouch beside him, checking him over for any serious injuries. He valiantly ignored the hungry glint in her eye as she looked him over. Thank goodness you're alright, Naruto. Sakura was truly relieved. Inner Sakura was really making an effort to take over and get a little more hands-on with checking to see if Naruto was alright. Outer Sakura, naturally, resisted because now wasn't the time for that. But maybe later. No. Focus. But we have to save Sasuke-kun from this creepy grass kunoichi. She's some kind of pedophile. I am not a pedophile. Orochimaru roared, doing away with the female voice. I just want his body, dead. Silence. Are you sure? Naruto asked, voice clearly incredulous. Because from the sounds of it, yes, I'm sure. Orochimaru huffed, pinching the bridge of his nose in agitation. Children, technically I'm supposed to be here for you, Ninetales, but there's no reason I can't multitask. But now that you've caused a scene by destroying my summon, I suppose I will just have to retreat for now. But do know this, child, Sasuke-kun will come to me for power. The cursed seal will compel him. The snake Sannin laughed evilly and promptly disappeared into the earth. And not a moment too soon, because Kakashi, Shirosue, and a number of Umbu showed up a few moments later, right after Sasuke collapsed into unconsciousness. But Kakashi obviously didn't care about Sasuke, as he ran over to the blonde instead, patting him over and hugging the stuffing out of him. Naruto! I was so worried. Here, let me give you an earth scroll and take you to the tower. These genin are obviously playing a little too rough. Hatake, let Naruto go, or I will make you experience your worst fears, Sakura hissed as she held up a dart to skewer him point blank. She wasn't gonna let another pedophile have his way with Naruto, not after one had his way with Sasuke-kun. Kakashi promptly dropped the blonde out of shock and a little bit of fear. Was it just him, or did Sakura seem a little like? No. He must be imagining things. There was no way Sakura could be her reincarnation. It was too soon. He hoped that was the case. Alright, like I said, actually, Kakashi, I'd like to continue the exam naturally. Naruto placed an emphasis on the word as he tapped his foot on the ground impatiently. We don't need to be coddled. And I'm sure teams 8 and 10 will help us out if we really need any. You should really go on the hunt for that pedophile that was harassing Sasuke. He could summon snakes, and he had this really long tongue. Kakashi's visible eye widened and he whipped his head search of the missing nin. Egad. Orochimaru? Then you really must come with us. No. We're staying in the forest until we complete the test. Naruto firmly restated. But what about Sasuke? The other dangerous animals in this forest? Sasuke will be fine. He's just stressed after dealing with his most forward fanba. Naruto rolled his eyes, not even bothering to comment about the animals. Kogan was back home and loving it. They had nothing to worry about in that department, and had in fact saved a red-headed girl earlier, Karen or something. And on that note, you wanna help? Take this girl to the tower since her team abandoned her. She says she's an Uzumaki like me. And Gaara didn't know how to feel about his siblings cowering behind him again after that big explosion from earlier. It had startled him, too, but they seemed much more affected by it. In hindsight he supposed he couldn't blame them, but really? He had a bloody reputation, pun intended. He wasn't the protective sort, not even from explosive happy psychopaths that were evidently in the forest with them. An explosive happy psychopath that Temari and Kankuro were certain was related to that pink-haired, maroon coat-wearing bitch that had experimented on them for hours. Cause who else had a reputation in here besides Gaara? That pink-haired, maroon coat-wearing bitch and her psycho teammates, that's who. And they didn't want to die at the hands of those psychos. Temari and Kankuro liked living, yet despite feeling annoyed at his siblings' cowardice, he could not help but feel a small warm and fuzzy feeling sprouting in his chest. He'd never had his siblings rely on him before, not like this. Gaara was at a loss as to what this feeling was, though. It felt so bizarre yet also vaguely familiar. Gaara wasn't sure whether he liked it or not. Chapter 10. Naruto, stop looking at Sasuke-kun like a pervert. Sakura rubbed at her eye blearily. It was early morning, they were camped out in a hollow tree, and Naruto was all squint-eyed. Like he was deep in thought, which was strange for him, obviously. I'm not. Naruto huffed in exasperation and didn't bother explaining that he was looking at the seal on Sasuke's neck. He didn't know why he was doing it, either, just that he was doing it. He'd never looked at something so intently before, not even ramen. It was weird. Hey! Tree huggers! Get your cute little asses out here! We want to fight Sasuke! A voice called from outside the tree. Some guy with a death wish, apparently. Sakura's eyes flashed determinedly, and both she and Naruto got up at the same time. Though Sakura looked at Naruto sternly. No. Mine. I get dibs this time. You watch over Sasuke-kun, and don't be a pervert. She growled out before stomping out of the hollowed-out tree. Naruto crossed his arms and grumbled, but didn't do anything to go against Sakura's wishes. He wanted to vent off some steam after some pedophile sank his fangs into Sasuke, but clearly he wasn't going to get that chance for a while. So what to do, oh well. Back to staring at that seal intently, for whatever reason. Saku sneered as the pink-headed, trench-coated girl was the only one to come out. Was she trying to be scary or something with that gas mask she was putting on? It did look to be made of high-quality stuff, he'd give her that. Heh. Looks like we'll be going through you to get to Uchiha. What's up with Blondie, eh? Zaku snickered as he, Kin, and Dosu all got ready to spring into action. But alas, they made the mistake of just standing there when Sakura brought out a little metal canister and started bouncing it in her hand. Menacingly, you get to be the guinea pigs for my toxin's gaseous form. Get ready to experience your worst fears, all of them. Sakura's voice changed into some deeper, baritone one as a result of the gas mask on her face. That didn't intimidate the sound team. What did was how casually Sakura removed the pin and lobbed the canister at them. Oh, they made a run for it, they really did, but somehow, someway, the gas dispersal was absurdly fast. Faster than anything they'd experienced before, and that was saying something considering who ran the hidden sound. They were enveloped in seconds, and that was when the screaming began. True to Sakura's words, they experienced their worst fears. What Sakura failed to convey was that they would become so panicked that they would do just about anything to stop the horrific hallucinations. Death, Dosu. Dismemberment and death, Zaku. Rendering herself unconscious, Kin. Well, that last one might have been helped along by Sakura herself, simply because she wanted a more permanent lab rat, after those two Sand siblings had escaped prior to the first exam. No one would have a right to complain, seeing as how this girl was from a minor, upstart village. After clearing the gas, Sakura tied the girl up in ninja wire and placed her on a reverse summoning scroll that Enko-sama helped her to create. It would take the black-haired girl to her lab, read, the basement of her parents' house, where she would wait patiently for Sakura to come and experiment on her. No, Sakura did not really think that would be the case, but after seeing the kind of relationship Enko-sama had with some of the TI prisoners, Sakura decided she would like some of that. The dynamic seemed delightful. While Sakura was wrapping up, Sasuke chose that moment to wake up and obviously be affected by the cursed seal. Naruto, where's Sakura? Sasuke asked the blonde in a flat voice. Well, she just got done massacring this one team that came to fight you. Naruto scratched his cheek in contemplation. So there's no need to worry. Why don't you rest a little more? That whole ordeal with the pedophile must have worn you out. I'm rested enough. Sasuke deadpanned as he rolled his shoulder. Let's go find other teams to fight. I haven't felt this rested in a long time. I need to go let off some steam. Seriously. Naruto shook his head slowly. I really think you should rest. That seal is having some kind of adverse effect on you, I can tell. Databeo. Sasuke scowled as he eyed his blonde teammate. You wanna pick a fight? I told you, Sasuke huffed, and then narrowed his eyes when something occurred to him. Maybe it was the cursed seal, maybe it was a long overdue deduction, but he realized something. Say, you're not acting like the clans or your spunky, hyperactive self. Is this some personality we don't know about? I don't know what you're talking about, Sasuke, Databeo. Can I be worried about my friends? Maybe. Sasuke allowed. He made a vague gesture. But this seems way out of character, even for you. You're not distressed, you're more calm than you should be. Something's definitely off about you. Naruto simply closed his eyes and didn't say anything. Fight me, Naruto. Sasuke all but growled as he got into a battle-ready stance. And then Naruto smiled wryly. You were always so full of confidence, Sasuke, but I kind of like that. Because now? I can tear that confidence to shreds. Naruto snapped his eyes back open and grinned at Sasuke. It wasn't a grin promising evil intentions, it simply exuded confidence. When you lose, just remember that I got to take a look at the Forbidden Scroll. Sasuke scoffed at the reminder. So? You learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's all you were able to learn from it. Naruto wagged his pointer finger at his teammate. TSK. You're forgetting one little detail. I didn't have to read all of it, just capture the scroll's contents with my eyes. I happen to have a little fur ball in my gut that has perfect memory recall. 'Cause seriously, it's a giant mass of chakra, not a human being. If I happen to allow it to read the scroll for me, It will retain all that knowledge that might get me into trouble otherwise. Sasuke's eyes widened in shock and horror. You mean you? I've got it all up here. Naruto tapped his pointer finger on his temple and smirked. Every single forbidden technique that we have saved up in that scroll, and you want to know the best part? I only need one to beat you. Save you really? I don't need saving, idiot. I've never felt better in my life. Despite the situation, Sasuke rolled his eyes. He was so screwed. You know that it takes one night to travel to and from the plane of the Shinigami? Naruto took out a kunai and started juggling it idly. Well, the trip doesn't take that long, I just needed one night to hash out a deal with it. You know, after beating it at a game of cards. I got absurd luck, Databayo. You're shitting me. Sasuke deadpan, dropping his fighting stance altogether. There was no way. Remember that day I came to training all tuckered out? Naruto asked innocently. He knew Sasuke remembered. It was very out of character for him to be so exhausted during the day. He chuckled at Sasuke's still incredulous stare. Hey, your funeral, bub. The Shinigami has a Jamaican accent, I shit you not. Don't worry, this hickey removal probably won't hurt much. I just don't like my friends being toyed with, okay? Not by pedophiles that don't recognize boundaries. Having spoken his piece, Naruto flicked the kunai over Sasuke's shoulder, sufficiently distracting the raven-haired boy for a second, and ran through the hand signs to summon the Shinigami. Reaper Death Seal. Sasuke still wasn't taking him seriously, as he could not see the big intimidating ethereal form floating behind Naruto. The big intimidating ethereal form who looked slightly exasperated at being summoned so casually. You know the drill, I just want that damn pedophile's chakra taken. Leave Sasuke's alone, Naruto told the Shinigami sternly, though to Sasuke it still looked like nothing was happening. Nevertheless, the Shinigami grumbled some obscenities under its breath and pierced a hand through Naruto's soul and through Naruto's stomach, eventually reaching the curse seal on Sasuke's neck. Since there wasn't that much chakra stored in the seal yet, the procedure lasted only 15 seconds before Sasuke got all woozy at the loss of the cursed seal, which had disappeared from the back of his neck. I feel faint. Sasuke muttered, stumbling briefly before collapsing into unconsciousness. Thanks, Shinigami. Naruto offered a bright grin at the creature who muttered some more obscenities under his breath before disappearing without taking Naruto's soul. Mortals, Chapter 11. The day that Team 7 reached the tower, a meeting of evildoers was taking place in an out-of-the-way cavern beneath the Leaf Village. There were approximately 10 total. 8 of them were shiny, rainbow-eye silhouettes, while the other 2 were Orochimaru and Sasori. So you see, Orochimaru began to wrap up his report. Aside from a few minor setbacks, the invasion is still on. The hidden sand has no reason to betray us, and Sasori, I shall swoop in amongst the confusion and steal both the 9 tails and 1 tail. An uncouth young man snorted and rolled his pink eyes through his projection. Let me get this fucking straight. You had the fucking 9 tails in reach, and you go after a fucking Uchiha? Shut up, Haiden. You should know by now, the snake's obsession. Kakuzu sighed tiredly, having gotten no rest for the past 8 days due to the absurd amount of bounties they had been raking in together. Sure, Haiden was a headache to deal with, but all that money. He does have a point though, as much as it pains me to admit. Why didn't you just brand the Uchiha and capture the 9 tails? It seemed simple enough. Orochimaru opened his mouth to explain his actions, but Sasori butted in, because Jonin were closing in on his position. Too many for me to try and stop. The puppet master rasped from within his Hiriko puppet. We were forced to pull out. A long silence followed that explanation, with the exception of Haiden calling out, "Bullshit." Still, that was the story, and Orochimaru and Sasori were sticking to it. The apparent leader of the group with purple-ringed eyes took a deep breath and decided to conclude the meeting. Aside from the minor complications, let us just proceed as we are now. Zetsu, arrange for Kabuto to be broken out of the Hidden Leaf's TI, and the rest of you just remain locked on your targets. Or in Deidara and Kisame's case, keep looking for the 3 tails. It has to be out there somewhere. Haiden, Kakuzu, I expect the 7 tails host to be captured within the week. Since we have a month before the invasion, I expect all of you to be ready for the sealing to take place. We have the 5 tails, let's keep the momentum up. Dismissed. With that, the 8 rainbow-eye silhouettes vanished, leaving Orochimaru and Sasori in the cavern alone. After a while, Orochimaru gave a sidelong glance to his partner. Is it sad that I was expecting you to publicly embarrass me about the real reason I didn't grab the 9 tails? Orochimaru was very sensitive about being called a pedophile, after all. He was a scientist. A scientist. Sasori snorted derisively. Sure. Only for you to call me out on being nostalgic over seeing one of my old puppets in action again? I don't think so. Orochimaru chuckled with mirth. Touché, my puppet friend, touché. There was a long pause as the pair just stood there and ruminated. Never speak of this incident again? What incident? HM. Sasori is a good boy. Say something like that again, and I will vivisect you and enjoy it. I'm telling you, I don't know. Sasuke stomped his feet in frustration. Currently he was suffering the 3rd-degree interrogation after reuniting with his sensei. Basically, all the rookies made it to the tower with Niji's team, and when Team 7 had opened the heaven and earth scrolls, it was the beautiful and wondrous Anko-sama that greeted them instead of Iruka-sensei, who was meeting with Team 8. She'd been briefed about her despicable former sensei branding Sasuke with that damn curse mark, and so instead of greeting her team with her usual enthusiasm, she had charged straight over to Sasuke, only to discover that the curse mark was gone. Either Kakashi, Shursui, and those Umbu had been seeing things, or they were playing a damn joke on her. Either way, she'd be making her displeasure known after these exams wrapped up. You didn't joke about the curse mark, especially when you claimed that her own students suffered the same experience she did. It was just not done. I don't know what happened either, sensei, Sakura explained when Anko-sama gave her a look. It was on him before I went out to deal with this one team from the hidden sound, and it was gone when I came back. Though Sasuke-kun was really out of it, even without the curse mark. Anko turned to the final member of her amazing, super brats with a leer. He'd better have answers, or so help her. I must have dozed off, Anko-sama. Sorry. Naruto sounded downtrodden, eliciting a groan of defeat from Anko. How convenient that Sasuke forgot his little interaction with Naruto then again. It could seriously be the loss of the curse mark. That might have had an effect on his mind, though not very likely. It's not like there was a forbidden jutsu for that or anything. If there was such a jutsu, the Yamanaka might be pissed off that someone had the knowledge of how to use it because they would have been the ones to call for that jutsu to be banned from use. Alas, they would never know if someone did know how to perform that jutsu. Probably. Well, good work getting here, guys. Anko sighed and rubbed her temple exasperatedly. Seeing as how it's the last day, it looks like it's just going to be the 12 of you that just came in and that trio of San Genin, meaning that there probably won't be prelims this time, because 15's not a bad number. So you guys can relax that there's about a month until the third exam. There was a long pause after that declaration. Then Anko broke out into guffaws as she hunched over and slapped her own knee. Oh man! I can't believe I said that with a straight face. Your asses are grass for the next 30 days. Good luck with that. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke just shrugged at their sensei's ominous promise of tough training. They were already hella strong. What would a ton of more power hurt? That question is rhetorical, you know. Don't you roll your eyes. Since there are 15 of you, I can't really in good conscience allow any of you younglins to back out. Sarutobi puffed on his pipe as he addressed the genin in the room where the prelims would have been held. Two of the San Genin looked terribly dispirited at this announcement, but Sarutobi couldn't really dredge up the effort to particularly care. This was like the ideal number of candidates to go on to the next round. Oh sure, there would be a bye for the first round, but barring any draws or disqualifications, there would be 8 genin proceeding into the second round of the tournament, and from there the tournament would proceed smoothly. A pity they couldn't rope in a random 16th genin, but that would be showing favoritism, and they didn't want that. Draw a single ball from the box here, and Kakashi will write down your number on the tournament bracket, Itachi intoned in that stoic voice of his as the genin came forward one at a time. Once they'd all drawn a ball and told Kakashi their numbers, a number of the genin sending warning glares at the white-haired jonin, Itachi announced how the tournament would go. Ironically enough, my foolish youngest brother Naruto will be getting the bye for the first round. How convenient for, 7 of you that lose your first match. Clearing his throat after some of the genin twitched at the jab. Kami knows how much favoritism that blonde got. Itachi went on to list the matchups. Shikamaru vs Kankuro, Sasuke vs Hinata, Ino vs Tenten, Lee vs Choji, Niji vs Sakura, Shino vs Temari, Kiba vs Gaara. That is the order of the matches. You have a month to prepare, good luck. Oh thank Kami! My heart was gonna burst from my chest. Kankuro declared as he and his siblings were returning to their hotel after lunch. I don't have to face that pink-haired bitch. I can just lose to that Nara kid and get some distance from that bitch. The three of them were aware that Kankuro was referring to the fact that he would be helping protect the group of shinobi in charge of summoning that three-headed snake monstrosity. You couldn't get farther than that when you still wanted to help lend a hand to the imminent invasion. I'd probably join up with you, but I don't like leaving Gaara alone at the hands of those monsters. Temari did not look pleased with having to be in the vicinity of Team 7. Bunch of psychos they were. I do not need your protection, Gaara growled, in spite of the slowly growing feeling of warm fuzzies in his chest. He was supposed to protect them. Just where the hell did that come from? As they reached their hotel room and opened the door, they found Baki, who was white as a sheet and shaking. Baki? What's the matter? Temari asked out of concern. The eye invasion's called off. Just do your best in the exams. Baki assumed the fetal position and rocked back and forth. I like living, mommy. Kind of spooked that Baki was acting so out of character, the San siblings contemplated going out to hang out in the village a little more. Obviously Sensei needed some alone time. What's with him? Temari asked as the three of them stepped out of the hotel room. His explanation hadn't been very explanatory. Baki was just being a big baby right now. Don't be too hard on the guy. He went through 2 hours with the Biki, and was going to have a session with Anko immediately following that. But the guy caved and admitted your guy's strategy and everything. A booming voice captured the attention of the San siblings, who weren't even aware of the large, imposing figure leaning against the wall next to their hotel room. The man had long white hair, and was dressed in red and green. There was also an imposing aura about him, despite how eccentric he seemed. He grinned lecherously. But hey! Don't worry about him. I'm here for you, Red. We need to get that seal of yours looked at. I hear it's driving you a little crazy. Cue simultaneous triple blink from the Sand siblings. Before they could say anything, the guy launched into his eccentric introduction that had them sweating by the end. Because really, who hadn't heard of the legendary Sannin? Amidst a celebratory trip to the hot springs, Naruto sneezed and looked around questioningly. Huh. Someone must have been thinking about him. He hoped it was a cutie. Chapter 12 Omake. The Council of Eight met for what had to be the first time in a long while. Well, ever since the start of the academy. You didn't think Naruto decided to act like his natural self via a normal, sane method, did you? No. The Council of Eight refers to the mental gathering of all of Naruto's personalities. That means at one time it had been referred to as the Council of Nine. However, it had been near unanimously agreed that the personality deemed control wasn't like the rest of them, and so was kicked out of the council. And then they proceeded to wipe their memories of his existence, to rub more salt in the wound for control. Oh, those poor, deluded personalities. Control was still bitter and sore over that council decision, considering he was older than 7 of the personalities. That he was forced to become the manager of sorts, but more on him later. The Council of Eight was meeting to discuss a matter of great importance. Who would get control of Naruto's body for the month-long survival sabbatical with Team 7? The great and beautiful Enko-sama was taking all 3 of her favorite brats into the Forest of Death to train them like there was no tomorrow for a whole month. That meant their rotation schedule would be thrown off. I'm just saying it's my turn. Nara yawned and sported a bored expression. He, like the rest of the various personalities, was seated in a levitating circular chair in a room that was completely white. The chairs were arranged in a neat circle. In addition, he was basically dressed like Shikamaru, albeit the color of the clothes was orange, while his blonde hair was tied back in a Shikamaru-style ponytail. The rest of the personalities were styled after various classmates, save for Hyuga and Yamanaka, who were styled after Hayashi and Inoichi respectively. Yeah, if we were staying at the Naras, maybe. Inuzuka scoffed, petting a mental projection of Kogen behind the ear casually. He grinned ferally. Since we'll be in the Forest of Death, I say I get dibs. Kogen can have a homecoming. The absolute last thing we need is you getting more time with the body, you uncultured, flea-ridden mongrel. Hyuga pointed authoritatively at Inuzuka while trying to show off his Byakugan. Really, he was just rolling his eyes to the back of his head. HN. For once Hyuga has a point about something. Uchiha sneered while leaning forward and his fingers interlaced in front of his face, imitating Sasuke brooding position number 11. Like any Uchiha, this facet of Naruto masterfully ignored Hyuga's hate-filled glare promising death and misery. Hyuga simply didn't have enough hatred, so why spare him any attention? Does a man pay attention to an insect while squashing it underfoot? Hey! Can we not fight, guys, please? Naruto's natural persona, dressed in Hokage garb that was tinted orange, tried to quell the fighting before it began. They might all be different personalities, but in the end, they were all Naruto. That meant their first impulse was to fight in order to settle disputes. It happened at the last damn council meeting. The only reason that Naruto's natural persona got to have control of the body during the academy was because he had the Hokage hat. All of them knew that he who wore the hat would get to have the last say. Still, Naruto's natural persona wasn't sure if that would work this time, because Uchiha was getting some wily ideas. Natural persona could see it in his eyes. I propose we go with Origin. The rest of Team 7 doesn't know the rest of us all that well. Yamanaka spoke up calmly. Origin being the nickname for the natural persona for obvious reasons. You just don't want a Yamanaka poking around in here. Coward. Uchiha accused. Would you want an actual Yamanaka poking around in here? Yamanaka queried, motioning around vaguely. This isn't exactly normal. I think we would be locked away somewhere dark forever. I second Yamanaka's decision. Aburame finally spoke up, once again reminding the council that yes, he was indeed there. I would not have us jeopardize our chances of becoming Chunin. Nara and Akimichi shared a look before nodding their heads. Akimichi was stuffing his face as usual. No rhyme or reason to it, it was just mental projections. Akimichi and I third and fourth that decision. And seeing as how Origin is grinning away over there, that at least brings the vote to 5, a majority in our favor. Inuzuka scowled before looking off to the side stubbornly. I guess I gotta be loyal to the Hokage. I will also agree to this decision. Hyuga smirked at Uchiha's surly expression. Clearly he was not in favor of going the traditional route, and that was precisely why Hyuga cast his vote in with the rest. Hyuga would always side against Uchiha, they just didn't get along. At all. There were a few moments of silence for Uchiha to accept his defeat gracefully, and side with everyone. When there was nothing but clenched fists, the gnashing of teeth, and a gloomy, dark aura hanging about Uchiha, Nara decided to try and speed the meeting to a hasty conclusion. Okay, since there are 7 votes, let's just, I invoke Article 17. Uchiha roared in defiance, standing up in his chair and a hot fire burning in his eyes. All of the other 7 personalities heaved a sigh at Uchiha's typical tenacity. Damn it, Uchiha! Just once can't you let it die? Nara groaned while certain personalities were gearing up for another council battle to decide who would keep the hat. Really, it was just reminiscent of the kinds of brawls you see in bars and the like. because they couldn't use jutsu in Naruto's mental mindscape. For those of you who don't know, Article 17 is an option left to the minority when council decisions are being made. Because the persona who holds the hat gets the last say in any council meeting, he can overturn any decisions in that meeting no matter how logical they may be. Article 17 was designed for special emergencies, such as when some persona gets a crazy idea in his head, and the majority is foolish enough to go along with him. The saner minority could then invoke Article 17 and get the chance to overturn that decision before it's too late. Obviously, Article 17 had not been used for that purpose yet. The only rule about Article 17 battles? No alliances. You all have to fight one another to get possession of the hat. And really, why wouldn't you want it? The hat was orange. Databale. Let's just get this over with. Nara sighed dramatically before they all lunged at each other, and kicked up a thick cloud of dust with their brawling. Hours later, Origin was clutching his beloved while everybody else nursed their wounds. He'd won again, naturally, Databale. No one was ever going to take the hat away from him. Ever. While most of them were bandaged up like mummies, Uchiha was in a full-body cast while lying on a hospital bed and glaring heatedly at the other 7 personalities. No, they didn't ally against him, but they used him as a damn doormat in their mad scramble to beat each other up to win the damn hat. It wasn't fair. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted. Nara glared pointedly at Uchiha. Similar to Origin, Nara wasn't too badly off after the brawl. They'd both learned early on that if you wanted any chance at the hat, you needed to let the other idiot personas beat each other up, and then swoop down on the weakened victors like a vulture. Thankfully, Nara did not care much who wore the hat so long as it wasn't Uchiha or Hyuga, the others or himself. It was good in Origin's hands for now. Let's move on to more new business. Updating the sexy jutsu, which we've somehow kept a secret for so long. Any thoughts on modifications? And just like flipping a light switch, all the personas seemed chummy with one another, eagerly sharing ideas instead of heatedly arguing with one another. They most certainly did not have perverted grins as they brought up mental projections of what they'd thought up. Nope. This was an anti-pervert jutsu. Believe it. Chapter 13. The day of the Chunin exam finals came faster than anyone expected. And what a blissful month interim it had been. Team 7 had been conspicuously absent, much to some people's ire, the clan heads and their children, but also to the delight of many. Cities, shinobi, didn't matter. Everyone who had to suffer Team 7's eccentricities were rejoicing. In truth, Anko-sama had simply taken her team into the forest of death for a month-long survival sabbatical. Only the utterly brilliant and beautiful Anko-sama would describe it in such a way. Survival sabbatical indeed. Gaara's seal was fixed, as Jiraiya promised. Now that Shikaka wasn't intermixing with Gaara's own thoughts and chakra so much, the one-tailed Tanuki was a lot more neutral in regards to the redhead. Oh, he was still pissy about being contained in a human host, but he wasn't so demanding of blood, because honestly, if you couldn't experience the act of killing through your host, there wasn't really a point to demanding for blood. No, Shikaka was now demanding sake, lots and lots of sake. Because now he was sober enough to realize that he was pretending to be a human brat's mother of all people while demanding for blood. That just sounded like a really messed up woman on her period, if you left it at that. On top of which, Gaara was developing quite the siblings complex, and while that was funny for a few days, it was starting to become disturbing. A young boy with homicidal urges suddenly having an overprotectiveness for his brother and sister? It was just not done. Sarutobi didn't know whether to be happy or furious with Anko. On the one hand, her taking Naruto on that survival sabbatical without advanced warning forced him to adjust the rotation for Naruto's adoptive families, because Shikaka had whined how unfair it was that his clan was skipped in the rotation. This in turn brought more whining protests from the other clans, who wanted the rotation to stay as is. Sarutobi failed to see what the problem was. It was only forestalled a month with Naruto's absence. He had to acknowledge that the Narutos weren't getting a turn, and had to rectify it. So that was annoying to deal with. On the other hand, Team 7's absence overall resulted in a drastic decline of his nefarious, diabolical, long-time arch-rival, the dreaded paperwork. People weren't traumatized so much when Team 7 wasn't in the village proper. Go figure. On the flip side, what little paperwork there was tended to be reports on all the wild parties that were being thrown in Team 7's absence. Sarutobi thanked the stars that the village was still manageable under these conditions, because people were that celebratory about it. Even his not-so-adorable anymore grandson had gone and broken into his not-so-secret sake stores and gotten inebriated. Do you even know how obnoxious an 8-year-old can be with a hangover? Do you? The silver lining to all of this was that Kakashi was easier to force into those therapy sessions with Team 7 gone. That is to say, Kakashi was not informed of where Anko had taken Naruto, and so he was turning the village upside down looking for the blonde. In his desperate searching, he was not so on guard against various Jonin and Umbu who were dispatched to make sure he got to those therapy sessions. Now, getting Kakashi to actively participate in those therapy sessions, that was still a chore. It took Itachi Uchiha of all people to be there to lull Kakashi into a coherent haze. And even then, they weren't making much progress with him. Talks had gone well with the Kazekage and the Hidden Sand, at least. Sarutobi was now funneling all those mission requests from the Wind Daimyo back to the Hidden Sand, so now they shouldn't be so desperate. It kind of helped that Jiraiya had been Sarutobi's liaison, because Orochimaru had made an attempt on the Kazekage's life. That, admittedly, was a downside because Jiraiya was only able to repel his former teammate, not kill him. So the snake Sannin was now aware that they were aware of his plans for invasion. That might be enough to force Sarutobi's wayward student to call off the attack, but the aged Kage wasn't going to hold his breath. If anything, Orochimaru would call in the cavalry from elsewhere now. Maybe from that flowery cloaked assassin club he joined up with from a while back. Kami knew that Orochimaru was a tenacious Synovich that wanted his head for picking Minato over him for Hokage. Regardless, Sarutobi didn't have as many misgivings as he did at first. Hidden Sand was going to be helping repel whatever invaders Orochimaru threw their way, and Kabuto Yakushi was all too forthcoming with information. The biggest thing they'd have to worry about would be that reanimation jutsu that Orochimaru had been experimenting with. The good news was that Orochimaru couldn't summon an army with that technique yet. The very best he'd managed while Kabuto was around was the first 2 Hokage, and while that in itself was troublesome, the good news was that they weren't at peak capacity. Orochimaru still had a long way to go in mastering impure world resurrection. So yeah? The day of the finals arrived, and a lot of the villagers were flocking to the emergency shelters in the Hokage monument. Not because of the imminent invasion, they weren't quite made aware of that yet, but because Team 7 was back in the village proper, and of course they would be unleashing hell in that stadium, so only the brave few would be going there to see how the matches panned out. But enough about the wimps. The third exam was just beginning, and Shikamaru and Kankuro were down in the arena while the rest of the competitors were up in a special area reserved for them. None of the Hidden Leaf Genin seemed to be paying Temari and Gaara any mind, even if they were not cowering in a corner opposite of Team 7. They weren't cowering. Really, they were just keeping their distance out of respect. Yeah, there are no rules, but when a match is over, it is over. Got it? Itachi looked between the competitors, making a Sharingan patented glare with each before starting the match. Itachi then disappeared in a flock of crows, and the genin sprang into action. Kankuro brought out his prized puppet, but the moment he manipulated it to attack Shikamaru, the lazy Nara made use of shadow possession jutsu to take control of it. The puppeteer twitched when the Nara smirked and turned around, prompting his puppet to turn toward him. Shikamaru walked back a few steps, and then dished out some bitch slaps. The puppet mimicked him, and Kankuro got them to the face. Then Shikamaru brought his knee up harshly, and Kankuro's balls suffered for it. The puppeteer was literally brought to his knees. Shikamaru finished it by swiftly bringing his head down, forcing the puppet to do the same and render its owner unconscious from the impact. Itachi reappeared a few moments later, after Shikamaru had released his jutsu and Kankuro and his puppet had crumpled to the ground. The Uchiha genius felt a modicum of respect for Shikamaru's efficient way of steamrolling through the match, and so gave a nod of acknowledgement. Winner, Shikamaru! 2 medic Nin came and hauled Kankuro away on a stretcher, and the next 2 competitors came down for their match. Sasuke and Hinata, up in the genin box, Temari was shooting Gaara a concerned glance. Gaara, are you alright? She knew all about the way males tended to feel phantom pains when it came to injuries to the balls of people they knew regularly. As strange as that concept was, Gaara did not seem affected in the least though. I am fine, Gaara rasped, feeling no need to alert his sister to the fact that his equipment was effectively protected with his sand armor. This included shielding the balls from phantom pains. The redhead promptly returned to ignoring his sister in favor of observing the next match. That Uchiha might have been the weak link on that team of monsters in his mind, compared to that pink-haired witch that had traumatized his siblings, and the blonde who, well, he'd heard rumor that he was the one responsible for exploding that snake in the forest of death, and to top it off, he was a Jinchuriki just like him. Yeah. Uchiha was definitely the weak link in his mind. But if he was on that team, then he must have had his own strengths that set him apart from, like, everybody best to see what he could do now than later, when they might fight. Never mind the fact they were on opposite ends of the tournament bracket. Looks like Sasuke's up. Sakura smiled at her blonde teammate, who was leaning on the railing and looking out at the arena. Yeah. I just hope he doesn't hurt Hinata too badly. Her sensei babies her enough as it is. True, Sakura muttered with a minuscule frown. Enko-sensei's designated surveillance missions of the other rookie teams revealed as much. You know, the ones where they were supposed to spy on the other teams without getting caught. If they got caught, Enko-sensei had plausible deniability, and would leave them out to dry. That kind of thing spurred them to, well, not get caught. And they didn't, even when spying on a tracker team like Team 8. It kind of helped that Enko-sama taught them tricks to work against clans with tracking abilities like the Inuzuka and Aburame. Hinata might have spotted them once or twice, but she was a sweet enough girl to not rat them out. A little further away, Kiba was talking with Shino. Ain't it weird how we're slated to fight 2 of those sand kids? Isn't it weird that Naruto's teammates are slated to fight against the only 2 Hyuga in this tournament? Shino deadpanned in return. Everyone knew the matches were randomized. Kiba grumbled at that snappy comeback, but didn't comment any further. It was just weird, that's all. Back down in the arena, Itachi had cleared the field, and Sasuke and Hinata were just getting into it. What should have been a match between the Byakugan and the Sharingan turned into a match between a close-ranged fighter and a swordsman. A swordsman with a big-ass sword, the executioner's blade. Wow. Compensating much? Hinata jeered, and then blinked. Was Naruto-kun really affecting her that much? He was a brother, technically, but still that she didn't say things like that. She was supposed to be the innocent, adorable one of the rookie 9. Sasuke, who was used to such antics from his blonde teammate, was only mildly annoyed with the insult. It was an attack on his manhood for sure, but Sasuke knew whose ass he really had to kick for influencing Hinata of all people in such a manner. Naruto was an Uchiha, and his younger brother technically this simply set a bad example, and had to be rectified. Immediately. I'll give you one chance to surrender. Sasuke exuded an air of confidence. He narrowed his eyes when Hinata did not react satisfactorily. I'm sorry Sasuke, but this is a match most exigent. If I lose here, Kurenai-sensei will coat me in bubble wrap every time there's a mission. I won't be allowed on a C rank until I'm 30. Sasuke winced in sympathy, having personally witnessed Kurenai-sensei's coddling through those surveillance missions. Well, hopefully the proctors would show mercy and promote her to Chunin, because Kami knows that if this went on for longer than a couple minutes, he would be viewed as the weak link of Team 7. Which would annoy him to no end. He wasn't weak. Naruto and Sakura were just borderline demons because of their drives. A few more years and they might transcend that line. For Naruto, his brother, that shouldn't be surprising considering the demon fox in his gut, but Sakura? A former civvy with a fangirl complex? Who still had that complex? What do you think drives her? That just made her all the creepier. The match was short, brutal, and had all the Uchiha, including Naruto, rolling around and moaning about their balls. Because Hinata did not go to the jugular, she went for the testicular. With her 64 palms, the executioner's blade did a fine job of blocking the first 10 strikes, but Hinata pounded her way through and got to her prize, ultimately beating Sasuke Uchiha into submission. The proctor bemoaned how his foolish little brother never got to learn how to use his little Kusanagi, while Hinata basked in the praise and cheering of the audience and, most importantly, Naruto-kun, who came down to the arena and well, it stopped being PG at that point. Let's just say that. No one complained about Naruto making out with Hinata right then and there. Hell, Jiraiya could be heard characteristically cheering his godson on. Yeah. This is what happened. No, not really. In truth, Sasuke had hit Hinata with a genjutsu before the match properly began, before her Byakugan were activated, and had been declared the victor just a few seconds after the match started. He'd had to drag Hinata back to the Genin box, though, because he didn't trust Kurenai-sensei not to coddle Hinata in her unconscious state. Normally, Sasuke might catch some flack for ending the fight before it truly began, but guess who the friggin' proctor was? Sasuke could probably get away with just about anything with him as the proctor. Sasuke had to wonder just where his simple genjutsu was leading Hinata, because as he dragged her up the stairs, she was beginning to drool. The genjutsu only told Hinata that she had won. How she won, what happened afterwards, her own imagination was supposed to fuel that. It made this genjutsu a particularly dangerous one, because who would ever want to break out of something pleasant they imagined up? As Sasuke watched Hinata drool and pervertedly giggle in her slumber, he was beginning to wonder if this genjutsu should be placed in the Forbidden Scroll. The fact that the brilliant Enko-sama taught it to him should have been his first clue. You need genjutsu that don't rely on the Sharingan his ass. Enko-sama just wanted to laugh her ass off at her student dragging around victims living out their perverted fantasies. You know, Enko, you could have told your kid to go easy on white eyes. Even though you sent Kurenai to get popcorn so that she wouldn't be here personally to see her kid lose, she's still going to act like a mother hen toward her. Asuma pointed out factually. Of course, Enko waved him off. Hinata's fine. She's gonna be a lot better off than Guy's white eyes brat. And who knows who Naruto will square off against, Enko chirped, knowing full well that the matches would only get more intense from here. She smirked slyly at Asuma. Oh, and nice try with training your brats to be like mine. At least the Nara brats match was fucking hilarious. Asuma's sweat dropped. Kami helped them if two of the demon brats of the Hidden Leaf, lovingly called so by the civvies of the village, squared off against each other in the semi-finals or something. Asuma might have to skip town if that happened. Fingers crossed that Orochimaru broke up the tournament before it got to that point. What if Naruto is protected by all 7 clans? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.